All right, it is that time once again. Locks before lock. Got the name right. We are ready to go. Wednesday edition NBA 8-game slate. We're going to set the table. We got a nice little half hour here. Then we're going to turn it over to the deeper dive. Live before lock, the same crew you guys always know. But I am Ben Rasa. I am joined, as I normally am on these Wednesdays, by Matt Savoca. Matt, little 8-game NBA slate. Some competitive, a couple huge spreads. And the Knicks are on the slate, which is good as New Yorkers for us. How are you doing this Wednesday?
I'm doing very well. I have to share something very silly with the audience here. I've been putting this show in my notes as LO period B period LO period for locks before locks, and then I realized that's basically low blow. So this is the low blow show for me. And that was a little bit of a low blow for the Knicks as well. They might get wiped by the 76ers today.
I don't know about might. It looks pretty dire. Yeah, we were searching for a name. Where were you when we needed it? But again, it's good to see everyone in chat. Here we go. We're going to dive into this. Odd Chopper powering the show. As you guys know, I'm going to be talking about that throughout. If you haven't been over there, oddchopper.com, a fantastic place. Alex's projections, the whole team loaded in from a betting angle, ROI, X-Win, everything you need. But let's get it started. Charlotte, 4-point dogs in Cleveland, 219.5. The thing that stuck out to me about this game, battle of pace. Charlotte wants to play really fast. Cleveland wants to play really slow. So when you look at a betting angle and you go to Odd Chopper, we kind of have a mixed bag. We've got some unders for the bigs. For Cleveland, Jared Allen under 11.5 boards stood out at plus money. What do you think you're going to do in this opening game?
Kind of looking at the Charlotte side here, and because of the matchup, because of the front court of Cleveland, I'm looking at Mason Plumlee under 7.5 rebounds here. I think for why, that's going that way. That front court has all the size in Cleveland with Markkanen, Allen, and Mobley. So despite the Hornets center averaging 10 rebounds a game in 25.5 minutes of play over the last month, he's hitting the under on this prop line 67% of the time. So I'm going to go with the under here. We got it projected for playing about a minute less. That might have something to do with it. A minute less than his average over his last 10 games here. And his rebounding percentages, Plumlee's, are just kind of meh on this slate. 14th among centers, just 17% over that 10-game span. And Cleveland, they might get Garland back, or likely getting Garland back. And so I can trust that 6th best defensive rating over their last 10 games. I'll start with like 2 out of 5 stars, maybe 3 out of 5 stars for this under for Mason Plumlee.
Yeah. It's not a great spot for me either. There was nothing where I was hitching, my card, starting my card with. I'm on board there, contrary on the other, not the other side, but kind of dovetailing with that. Montrezl Harrell, we have him kind of over his point projection, over his rebound projection. If you want to start, again, crafting a same game parlay here, I could see that. You mentioned the bigs for the Cavs. I do think there's some, cannibalization there, but I didn't really want to mess around. And then the last one I'll throw out, Odd Chopper is identified. I know they're not the most glamorous props, but the steals and the blocks props often come up as some of the best projected ROIs. LaMelo Ball over 1.5 steals. We haven't projected for 1.9, which is a significant edge considering you're getting plus 145 out there if you want to take that over. So I do want to throw that one out there. I'll give it a couple stars. Nothing too crazy, but I do think you can take advantage. I know, Matt, in the past, you've mentioned some of those props on this very show.
Absolutely. And right now, looking at the steals category specifically, that LaMelo Ball over is the highest value bet when you compare the expected probability to implied probability in the entire steals category. So I think that's a really good call.
Next game, I've had to deal with this game twice in a short amount of time. Pacers Magic. It's still as ugly as it was the first time. Indiana slight favorite, 232.5 total. So the question here, and certainly from a DFS angle, we're going to be talking about this later. Duarte, Brogdon, his props look really good. I think some of that is inferring. So what do you do with this situation? We just saw these teams play pretty recently.
Yeah, you have to think that the Awesemo projections right now are sort of factoring in the fact that Chris Duarte, the rookie for the Pacers, still really isn't over that toe injury, left the game on Monday. They're hopeful he can play here, but I think that's why we're so bullish just from an overall production standpoint for Brogdon here. I'm going to go, if I'm choosing one, over 16.5 points is the one I think I'm going to go with. Pacers lost badly, as you said, to the Magic when these two teams played 2 nights ago, and Brogdon didn't play. He he's still on a load management course here because they're trying to get him back from that Achilles injury. But when he is playing, he's playing plenty, 29 minutes and 31 minutes in his 2 games back from that Achilles injury. He had 15 points in his first outing, 20 points in the second. And just looking back a little bit further on the game log, and the games where Brogdon has played more than 25 minutes since December 1st, he's averaging 17.5 per game and hit that 16.5 prop line in exactly 50% of those games. So it's a league average matchup. So why not just go with the average in terms of Brogdon's production? I think he goes well over this, but in terms of expected ROI, 35%, that's one of the best points prop bets we have on the board tonight.
Yeah, if you're looking for some overs, I think this is a game that you could. I talked about this last time they played. I think you can build some correlated same game parlays with a lot of overs here. One that also stood out is Buddy Hield. You go to his 3-pointers if you want to roll the dice. Over 3.5 is lofty, but you are getting plus money. He's not shy. 9 or more 3-point attempts in 4 of 7. He can have double-digit attempts in this. Wouldn't surprise me. Orlando, also not surprising. God awful defending the 3. 29th in the league, just 33, just terrible. Everything about them defensively, 36.5%. They allow teams to shoot. That's 28th. Just a really poor defense. Any feel for me in terms of the game itself? I know it's a virtual pick 'em. I'm passing. I don't really want to roll the dice with either of these teams.
I agree. If you're going to look at the game environment overall and you really want something, maybe the under on 232.5. The Awesemo sports betting model has it at 227.5 as an expected total. So that's pretty high up there, but I don't really have a lean here. Game 2 of the series, I guess, right?
yeah. They're not going to be playing any series in the postseason, so they might as well get out of here. The poor Knicks, it's bad. 10.5 point dogs in Philly, 223.5. I think like a lot of people wanted to see, okay, will there be some growing pains? Will James Harden? It doesn't seem like there's any growing pains. He's been fantastic. They've looked amazing. They smoked the Timberwolves. The Knicks are playing terrible. I'm going to keep this pretty simple, and I'll pass it to you. I think Philly I would lay double-digit points here. I think they just absolutely crush them. I think you could bet them, in the first half if you want to lay like 6.5 or 7. I'll lay the 10.5. I'll give it 3 stars. Maybe some of the props go under, but as a team, I think Philly just has too much here for the Knicks.
I tend to agree here. And I was really shocked to see that Knicks plus 10.5 might actually be a solid value. Just looking at expected win rate to implied probability. No. And another thing here, I'm not following these bets entirely like the Bible. I'm just using them as my main baseline here. Yep. And you can always, adjust make your own adjustments when you get these projections from Oddshopper. But we have a bunch of James Harden unders as high ROI bets right now. I think you're playing with fire, to be honest. I think it's tough to really model out the true upside of a team once you have a major personnel change and usage change like this team. So our projections are rock solid, even in these quote influx situations, no doubt about it. But maybe it's just me overweighting the last week of play here, but it just really seems like the sky is the limit. The ceiling is the roof for this Philadelphia team right now. And so I think there's just way too high of a probability that they smash. If I'm going to go with one player prop, I'm actually going to go with Alec Burks over 1.5 3-pointers made. Burks has been taking 4 to 5 threes a game of late, averaging 3.2 from deep, but the Awesemo projections are predicting way more usage. The guard situation in New York is just awful, particularly the point guard situation. 33.5 projected minutes for Burks would mean his attempts should go up even higher than that. He hits 2+ threes in 61% of our latest simulations. That's a plus EV bet, even with the implied odds. It's like minus 118. So it's like 52%. That's still a plus EV bet.
Yeah. You could also go to his points. We lean over there, 11.5 straight even money plus 100. We have him projected for 13. So I have no problem with that. And well said. I think, again, one of my favorite things about Oddshopper, it allows me to quickly get a landscape of the game, and then I can dig into my own numbers in addition to it. I can use it in my process, whether it's on the DFS side or, of course, identifying these prop plays. But you can always pass. That's the one advantage you have in betting. Me and Lofty just did a video, DFS versus betting, and it was something we talked about. You can't omit a game from the DFS slate. There are 8 games, and you have to factor those guys in. With betting, you can be a lot more selective. So here, I can get on board with your Burks over. I'm going to lay the points with the Sixers. I don't think this stays close. Do you think that Utah and Houston stay close? Utah is a 14-point favorite on the road, 229.5 total. One of the bets when I was looking through that immediately jumped out was Hassan Whiteside's rebounds. Seen this a lot today, under 8.5, really strong ROI predictions based on the projections. Talk to me about that and anything else from this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now with this, we kind of predict a block party and just like a brick party as well. A ton of overs on rebounds. I'm looking at a ton of overs on blocks. I mean, we have Rudy Gobert projected for double the blocks of his prop line. Now, I realize we're talking about 3 blocks versus 1.5, but he's predicted to smash that 1.5 blocks line. And we also have Royce O'Neal over 0.5 blocks. Hassan Whiteside, again, over 1.5 blocks. But if I'm choosing one, I think I'm going to go with the Gobert just because the numbers are so off. We typically don't see that. Interestingly enough, the sports betting model has this as a pretty solid Houston money line. I'm not going there at all. I'm not going there at all. I just have to say that it's the third best money line bet in terms of expected ROI. I think I'll go with 3 out of 5 stars on that Gobert bet if I'm just choosing one player prop.
Yeah, I like the Whiteside one. Again, not one that I initially would have been drawn to, but those are really strong numbers here. We have several rebounds projected under. I'm going to just go, again, with OddsShopper, I can quickly shop the best price. Just for the people out there, if you want to be dangerously insane, Houston Rockets money line, I can find upwards of plus 850. So you get north of 8-1 there. It is the NBA. You see these type of things. I don't know.
Plus 850 is implying like a 10 or 11% chance of Houston winning. I'm not saying there's more than a 15% chance of winning, but comparing that expected probability to implied probability is the way you can definitively say a bet is plus EV. That's why you hear us talking about it all the time. It technically is. It still happens less than 1 in 5 times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, you don't need to cash north of 8-1 tickets too often for it to be very, very profitable long term. I'm just not sure this is a spot I want to take a position in. If you think that Houston maybe starts fast, I would be more prone to actually wait and bet the Jazz live if you think that Houston hangs in the game and you're going to get a much better number than 14-point favorites. Friend of the show, Dan, just said Houston allows over 4 blocks to opposing centers last 7 games, most in the league. Just another data point of why we could see Gobert very active defensively and crush that prop. All right, before we move on, we have a minute here so we can backtrack for people who are hopping in. What was your favorite Knicks Sixers prop? You were going over on Alec Burks' 3-pointers, right?
That's correct. Over 1.5 threes.
There it is. And I'm laying the points for a straight demolition. And again, if you do hop in and you are scrambling, or you just missed part of the show and you of course can go back and listen. But if not, you can also just go to oddshopper.com. That is where we're pulling this data from. 100% free. You don't have to sign up. It is a tool that we have built here with the Awesemo team and the Awesemo tools. So if you're getting into betting or you just want a new data point for your DFS process, head over there, check it out. You can sort by the games and take a look there. Let's keep it moving. This is a good one. Heat, Bucks, Miami plus 4.5 on the road, 224.5 total. If I could only watch one game tonight, it would be this one. I lean to the Heat in the game. I'm going to give that a 3-star. I'm going to take a side here. I think, these teams know each other very, very well. They've been in the playoff battles. I like the Heat from the prop side, though. I mean, I don't know. I always get nervous shorting Giannis. We have under 11.5 rebounds. We have a projected for 10.5. What were you seeing in this, what I think will be a very competitive game?
Well, I'm in full agreement with you. This is the game I'm really excited for. I want to see this series sometime down the road this spring. Absolutely. But this might end up being that pass game for me because I'm not seeing a ton of values. I'm really excited about the matchup. Plenty of DFS values if you're playing tonight over there, but just not seeing a ton in the betting market or the props market. Maybe if you're looking for one, if you got to play something here, maybe Grayson Allen over 8.5 points. It's a low enough line for a player like Allen. We've got him projected for double digits in the points category, roughly 27 minutes of expected playing time. Miami, obviously excellent defensively, second in the NBA in defensive rating over their last 10 games. Milwaukee's just equally strong offensively, right? They're number 1 in offensive rating during the same span. Like I said, I'm really excited for this game, but I just wish I had a better prop to really guide people towards. Sometimes the lines are really efficient. That's what I'm finding here. I'll say 1 out of 5 stars with this Grayson Allen bet.
Yeah, I don't mind doing something like that. Again, I just really respect the Heat. They're not affected by being on the road. They're a sound team. Their experience, their unit has been kind of intact for multiple years now. But as we talk about, sadly, sometimes the best value is in games that are really not competitive or just weird games. This is a very exciting game to watch. Maybe not the best betting game. Any feel on the side or total? Or are you really looking to kind of pass across the board?
God, I think Milwaukee takes it. I think they take it. What are they favored right now? 4?
So let me check out again. I'm just going to go to, just for people who may be unfamiliar, going right to betting resources. I click on NBA odds, compare. Scrolling down, I can get you. Unfortunately, all your 4s are gone. There's a 4.5 out there at -105. I'm on the other side, so I'm looking for 5, but I don't see any 4-point favorites for Milwaukee anymore. It was 4 at one point, I believe, though. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I would have liked it a little better there, but I still think Milwaukee takes this one probably 60 to 65% of the time.
Okay. Fair enough. Again, we have 8 games. This is not a small slate by any stretch. A million props, but even when I sorted, there was mostly Serge Ibaka. You mentioned Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis, guys like that, where I didn't see a ton from the superstars. I didn't see a ton of value in the game. All right, we've got 5 down, we've got 3 to go, and of course, Joe was already talking about. We got the heavy hitters coming up next. Don't you worry, Alex and Adam are going to break down all these games, DFS, and we got live before lock. And then after that, in a couple hours, you come back and watch me talk some PGA, but that's late night. We don't need to get into that now. Let's talk Sacramento and the Pelicans, 233.5 total. Kings 6-point road dogs. This is expected to be a somewhat, maybe an ugly game, an up-tempo game. Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, let's go to those ugly games and just grind those middling prop lines. That's what we're talking about. Hey, all 3 Holiday brothers are in action today, so we got to take a bet on at least one Holiday, right? That's just the rules. I don't make them. Let's go Justin Holiday over 8.5 points. This is pretty simple to me. The Pelicans are basically league average defensively. Holiday averages over a point per game more than his current prop line. He's hit this prop line in 60% of his starts over his last month. I realize he's been up and down as a scorer. 3 points in 25 minutes a few days ago is not going to get it done. That's right on the heels, though, of a 15-point game. And that yo-yoing we've seen in his scoring is kind of how it's been for a while now. 3 points after scoring 15, a 5-pointer after an 18-pointer, a 7-point game after a 12-point game. Bottom line, we've got Holiday projected for 10.5 points, way over that prop line in terms of percentages. Holiday gets to 9+ points in 63% of our latest simulations. That's a really solid ROI.
Let me just ask you quickly, because I'm totally on board with that. What made you kind of go to him over a guy like Jeremy Lamb, who's basically the same type of point prop? He graded out, we have him projected north of 10. Was it close, or did you see something specifically with Holiday that made you kind of lean there?
I don't know if it's something specific. I think it's just the playing time and the fact that, one of my main base, I should say it differently. With a prop bet, I need information that makes me move off of a baseline. And that baseline for me is the average over a period of time compared to that prop line. So if there's nothing in the matchup that makes me see, the playing time is going to change or the defensive matchup is going to change the approach, then I should just go with the baseline. This hits just as often in just plain averages as it does in our projections. So it's a full go for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's something that you're always going to have to decipher within the game. Like if you're leaning over with some of these guys, it's not just, it's not an opportunity cost because you can bet unlimited amounts of props. But it's still, you have to kind of factor in, okay, where do I want to allocate the bankroll and where do I want to kind of pay? Because you are, of course, paying juice on all these and you're going to cannibalize yourself if you're betting too many props. And that's where parlays come in. Can I get you to build a same game parlay, just the Holiday brothers tonight? So that's something narrative street that we need to be doing in life.
I think we need to. I didn't get that far. I realized I just thought they needed to be represented, but to have all three, I don't know. Would the show explode?
I'm sure they're loyal listeners to the show. If they are, you know what I'm going to say to them and everyone watching who's scrolling in. If you want to show some support, you do enjoy betting. Again, thanks for stopping in. Easiest way to show that support, hit that like button. If you're new to the stream, if you're checking us out for the first time, hit that subscribe button. If you want to join, you're going to be part of a 75,000 person community soon enough. We are marching right towards it because of you guys. Got 2 games left. Then we're going to turn it over to the DFS crew. They're 2 gigantic spreads. The first one is OKC 15-point underdogs in Denver in the altitude, 226 total. This is teetering on blowout central. SGA is doing everything he can and then some to keep them in games, but they're just straight overmatched here. So how do you approach a game with this big a spread?
Right. SGA like makes them watchable is really at this point.
Huge fan. He is fantastic.
Yeah. I like Giddey too. I'm just, I want to take the under here on the total. We got a 226 point total. And the Awesemo sports betting model has this one pegged at under 221 points as an expected total. This is a really interesting stat I found. OKC is actually 37-21 against the spread this year. That actually surprised me a lot considering they only have 19 wins this year. And Denver, as you would expect, has like a 94% win probability in this one. But, I think when you simulate this game, and you think about that 94% win probability, and let's say it holds up if you simulate this game over and over and over again, you inevitably get a bunch of outcomes where Denver doesn't even play particularly well, and they still end up with a victory. So essentially, their ceiling as a team is just as high as if they're playing a really good team, but their floor is actually a bit lower in projected blowouts because they literally might not need the full projected usage and projected production from all their players. The under bet is tied for the second highest ROI totals bet of the night. And we stay under that 226 total in nearly 60% of our simulations. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely could see some blowout run. And, of course, Jokic is going to be a talking point on the DFS side. I have no interest in his props. I want to lean over on SGA. I've been going over on his props, and it has been cashing. You got 26.5 points for him. We have a projected just north of 28. There is some built in, he might be sitting on the bench when they're down 40, but at the same time, if the game stays close, the usage is going to be there. I don't mind putting that on the card, but I would caution, as you're saying, 15 points, that's a big time spread. There's a big difference. It gets exponentially more dangerous as you climb that ladder. And that is really up there. If Denver covers this number, there's a very real chance that these guys are not getting their full minutes, their full rotations, or their full usage. Anything else from this game before we turn to the final one here?
Let's bring it home, bud.
Let me ask you this, just gut feel. If you had to, who do you think's more likely to win? Because they're both plus 850, the Rockets or the Thunder?
Rockets.
I would agree. They're at home.
Yeah.
I don't think either are going to win, but I really don't know how OKC keeps this close. I'm not laying 15 points, but at the same time, this is just a tough spot in many, many regards. Honestly, I could have thrown the last game in there too. Do you think Portland has a fighting chance? Because they are 13-point underdogs in Phoenix. Now, they are getting some help from the injury gods. Booker is out. Of course, that is going to make Cameron Payne dangerously popular in DFS. But for props, again, it doesn't really change that much because the books adjust to these things and things go off the board. So what do you do in this game? Can we take advantage of this news, and who may benefit?
I actually think the field might overreact to something like this. Obviously, Phoenix has to change the way that they use their guards, because when you don't have Paul and you don't have Booker, you just have to change the way that you play. Obviously, this one gets more interesting looking at it, but honestly, would it be crazy to say projections wise that not much actually changes for me from a game flow standpoint in this one? I still think Phoenix takes care of Portland, especially with how badly Portland's beat up. And typically we can look to stud players on teams slated to blow out poor opponents and just bet the under with the same reasoning we were just talking about in that OKC Denver game over there. I mean, I don't know. No backcourt for Phoenix. The Awesemo sports betting model actually sees this one with an expected spread of Phoenix minus 16. So we're seeing that line move the other way. Why not just take the free money with Phoenix money line? I know it's not an exciting bet. It's an implied probability of minus 550 still. But if we're saying it's still happening 85 to 90% of the time, and the implied probabilities are like 80 to 85, again, that's the plus EV. Not an exciting bet that's going to change your life, but I still think Phoenix crushes here.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, and again, this is a different show for a different time, I'd probably recommend putting it as a parlay piece if you want to
Yeah,
attach
it's a
it
good
to some
call.
other bets. So you're not allocating crazy amounts to win small amounts. You attach it, and you move bets from, say -115 to +110 just with adding Phoenix money line. But again, the numbers have to check out there. It doesn't mean you can't do it, because I do think this team is just so strong. They are at home. Even with the, CP3 and Booker, they're going to be just fine in this game. The spread barely budged. I don't see anything in the prop world, though. I'll be honest. I see Cam Johnson, I see Crowder. All of these are straight passes, and I have no desire, and it doesn't seem like you do either, to really take a big position on anything Portland related.
Yeah, I'm not. I like watching Anthony Simons play, but this team is just going nowhere fast.
Yeah, no, they're it's a sinking ship, and without Lillard, of course, it's just a lost season. And yes, Booker being out really changed the game, but I don't think it'll change the outcome. There you have it. Of course, in the next 2 hours, news could break, and if it does, Odd Chopper, like our projections when we run them, they change. All of this stuff is real time. Alex and the team have it set up to have you guys covered. So me and Matt are going to bounce out of here, but don't go anywhere. In just 2 minutes, Alex Awesemo Baker himself and Ship My Money will be here talking these 8 games, giving you the DFS insight that you guys need. So for me, for Matt, for Tyler behind the glass, good luck tonight. Enjoy the games, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive presented by PrizePicks. I'm Alex Baker, joined today by Ship My Money Scherer. Adam, Ship My Money, I should say. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Excited. I feel like we haven't done a show together in a while, so looking forward to that. And I think it's a pretty fun slate to talk about. Nice 8-gamer, and not a ton of injury news, but also some value, some really good plays, I think. So it should be fun to talk about.
Yeah, there's a few ones that are going to be hard to pass up. And today, I know there's some big tournaments, including a Millie Maker. So hopefully, I can give you some picks that take home the cheddar tonight. So be a good one. Before we get going in the game-by-game breakdown, guys, if you could hit the like button, that gives me and Adam that positive reinforcement we need to give you all the best plays. And also, we have a lot of free tools on Awesemo.com today. including the NBA main slate ownership projections. So we can talk about some of those while we go along here, but check them out on the site. And you guys just saw our NBA prop show, Locks Before Locks. So make sure to jump in there 30 minutes before the deeper dive every night. All right. Let's get into the game-by-game breakdown. Let's start with this Indianapolis at Orlando game. Indiana, 1-point favorite. Now, Malcolm Brogdon, he's come back from his Achilles injury. He's played 2 games so far. Sat out the last game due to back-to-back, but he's supposed to be back. What have you seen so far in his return?
I think so far we've basically seen more or less the status quo from what we'd seen earlier in the season. He's played about 30 minutes in each game, but he also hasn't played in the fourth quarter. So I wouldn't be surprised if this game's competitive if he does get a couple more minutes than the 30 that he's averaged. His usage rate and his assist percentage have both been down a little bit in the 2 games he's played with Halliburton compared to his season average. But I also don't really think that is likely to really hold up over a larger sample because he has played most of the season with some combination of Sabonis and LeVert. So it's not like Halliburton's coming in and just, taking a lot of stuff away that they weren't already. So I expect Brogdon to continue to be around a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy and probably play, 30 to 32 minutes here.
Nice. Yeah, I noticed the same thing with Brogdon not playing the fourth quarter. So that really does show his upside is huge here, that instead of 30 minutes, he could have played like 36, and the field's not quite there yet. So that's one guy I'm kind of interested in. I am kind of worried about Halliburton like having a pretty high assist rate compared to LeVert or Sabonis, but the Pacers right now they're not very good compared to how they have been. So maybe it'll compensate there. So what about the rest of the Pacers? Halliburton, he's been getting a ton of assists so far. We have him projected for 9.3, the nearly 40% assist rate over the last game. So, seems to be pretty good, but the price kind of caught up with it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty difficult to get the Halliburton here. Like, obviously, he's a good player. He's capable of having good games, and this is a good matchup. But the assist percentage is likely to take at least somewhat of a hit with Malcolm Brogdon back. And the usage rate, I think, is likely to decrease. In the 2 games that Halliburton played with Brogdon, he had a usage rate between 16 and 17%. And he had the same usage rate in Sacramento in the games he played with De'Aaron Fox. So I do expect his usage rate to be lower with Brogdon playing. And obviously, that's a bit of an issue when Halliburton at this point is priced to be playing without Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Duarte, he missed part of the last game due to injury. Stevenson's back today. Jalen Smith was kind of the surprise of the last game, but I don't think we can play him. I'm assuming he's coming off the bench today. Is there anyone else on the Pacers that you're looking at?
Buddy Hield still interests me because I'm actually not overly concerned about Halliburton or Brogdon's return having a negative impact on Hield because I still think he's going to play huge minutes. He's still averaged 40 per game in the 2 games he's played with Brogdon, but he's also not a really high usage guy. Like Hield's usage rate is kind of just 21 to 22% no matter who he's playing with typically. So I think he probably just gets enough minutes here where at pretty low ownership in tournaments, he does still have some value. But, again, his salary has come up, so I don't think it's any sort of a priority.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It seems like the Pacers, not a ton of value tonight. Maybe on the Orlando side, we can get a little bit more, but no one out on Orlando aside from Mo Wagner. In fact, Markelle Fultz, he made his return last game. This first game he's played all season from what I remember. So I think that's kind of interesting, but that kind of takes away from some of the guard value. Is there are you seeing that as important for the Magic rotation, or is it just kind of not impacting it yet?
I think the biggest impact is that it makes it more difficult to get like a 34-minute game from Cole Anthony or Jalen Suggs. I don't anticipate Fultz cutting into their playing time like too much on average. I still think you're getting around 30 from Anthony, probably around 28 from Jalen Suggs, because I think you're going to see guys like Gary Harris, Terrence Ross, RJ Hampton losing minutes to Fultz before Suggs and Anthony do, given that they're two of the best prospects Orlando has. But it does make it a little bit more difficult for them to get huge playing time. And with their salaries rising a little bit as well, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to get to them. So I think it has a negative impact in that regard, but I don't think it's too much of an impact on those two guys.
Yeah, agreed. Suggs, he had a decent run, but then he had that game where he got in foul trouble, and then he didn't play that much last game either. So I'm kind of soured on him a little bit. But Mo Bamba, he has seen his minutes go up and down. The one game where he played like really low minutes, it was against the Nuggets. So I think that was a lot in part due to the matchup versus Jokic yesterday. Or I can't remember, was that 2 days ago when they played a more traditional big? He played a lot of minutes. He played, 30 minutes. And then he's up against Isaiah Jackson for Indiana today at center. So how do you see that matchup playing out? Is this a good spot for Bamba to get more minutes?
It's always tough for me to totally trust his minutes, but I do think I'm a little more bullish on them in general. Like, obviously he had that one game where he played like 11 minutes and it was just a really weird game where he barely played. But outside of that, most of the games where he doesn't get a lot of minutes can at least be explained by foul trouble or blowout. Like, he played 25 2 games ago against Houston, but he fouled out. He played 27 in a 21-point loss to Atlanta, had that weird 11-point game, played 23 in a blowout, 31 in a 15-point game. So I still feel pretty comfortable expecting around 26 minutes from him. Obviously, it can go a little bit higher or lower. At 4,900, he does still offer upside here. The center position is stacked, and so that keeps exposures to him in check. But I do still like Bamba in this spot.
Yeah, same. He's looking a little bit underpriced. We saw his minutes upside in the last game. And then let's see, Isaiah Jackson, he's taking 1-3 per 36. So I'm kind of thinking like maybe that plays a little bit into how they handle those minutes. So that could be a good factor for Bamba. Now, what about the rest of the team? I know Wendell Carter's had some games where he's played big minutes, and Franz Wagner, not the most exciting fantasy player, but pretty steady minutes. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, it's pretty much just Wendell Carter for me, in addition to Bamba. Carter's still likely to give you 30 to 32 minutes. He's a good point per minute guy, over a fantasy point per minute. Has power forward eligibility, which is really useful on this slate. We have a ton of good guard value. We have a ton of good high upside guards. We have a lot of centers across the board. Forward positions are a little bit weaker, so I think that's useful. It's difficult for me to get to Wagner. His price tag isn't that appealing. We've also seen his usage just come down in games where he's playing with the rest of the team healthy in terms of Anthony and Suggs and Carter. So that's a bit of a concern for me on Wagner as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next game, Charlotte at Cleveland. Pretty good. Two young up-and-coming teams, so it should be a good one. On the Charlotte side, Jalen McDaniels is doubtful while Gordon Hayward is out. Hayward, he's missed a lot of games, so nothing new at this point. So let's start with LaMelo Ball. I mean, he's always got huge upside. Is there anything drawing you to or away from him tonight?
I do just like him in tournaments at his current ownership. I mentioned him in both my DraftKings and FanDuel tournament videos earlier. It's not that it's a good matchup, but if he gets, 32, 33 minutes, he's averaged 1.27 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played without Hayward. You know that the production's likely to be there. It's really difficult to prioritize him because there are so many other good plays. But in an individual lineup, that's kind of what makes me like him in tournaments, because you're still getting someone that at least has the ability to go get 55, 60 DraftKings points, and you wouldn't be absolutely shocked if it happened. And you're just getting him at pretty low ownership, and a little bit of a cheaper price tag than normal at 8,500 on DraftKings and 8K on FanDuel.
Yeah, pretty reasonably priced. Pretty easy to get to, although there is some point guard value today. So like one of the bets I took today is the over on LaMelo Ball assists. I know they were talking about it, or sorry, steals. They're talking about it on Locks Before Locks. But one of the interesting things, Cleveland has averaged 8.7 steals per game against them, which is about one steal ahead of the league average. So it's like about 15% more steals than average, which is pretty interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. So just a little nugget there. Now the rest of the Hornets. Okay, so Rozier, Bridges. It seems like they're not priced extremely well, but not unreasonable options. Do you see anything there?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think Bridges is the next guy for me, in addition to LaMelo. Just kind of the same thing. Like, still a difficult matchup, but likely to play a lot of minutes. He's a 1 fantasy point per minute guy on average, and he does have the forward eligibilities, which is nice. So I don't mind using him as a contrarian play in tournaments either. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get to guys like Rozier or any of the Harrell, Washington, Plumlee pieces. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw a little bit of Plumlee and Harrell alongside each other against the big Cleveland front court, but I'm not confident enough in that, and I don't think the pricing is really favorable enough in this matchup for me to really want to get there anyway.
Agreed. Yeah, they're running 4 bigs out there these days with Thor, Plumlee, Harrell, and Washington. So it does make it a little bit hard to count on any of them for a big game on any given night. So I do like the fact that Cleveland is a bigger team, though. So that is a good point. Now on the Cleveland side, Darius Garland, he's questionable tonight, but he did go through shoot around, so I think it's fair to assume that there's a good chance he plays tonight. And then Brandon Goodwin had been one of our favorites, and he kind of dominated the last game, but most likely that shift him back to the bench. So if Garland does come back for this game, are you interested in Garland?
Somewhat, just because I do think the $7,700 price tag in the spot is pretty appealing. I don't know how many minutes he would play. I think 32 is a pretty fair guess. Like he hasn't missed a ton of time. He's only missed the last 3 games, but he's also missed, I think it's 8 of his last 11. So I don't really know exactly if they would just let him run out there and play 35, 36, but I don't expect him to be significantly limited either. He's got about a 28% usage rate in the games he's played without Sexton this year. Clearly a very good matchup. So just another, I think, pretty high upside tournament play, but not really a priority for me.
Now, a lot of times we talk about how you maybe want to prioritize guys from the later game just so that you can make the swaps. So if someone's not standing out, a lot of times I won't play them in the early games. But man, there's not a ton of news on today's slate. I mean, Schroeder, Garland, and Duarte are some of the questionable players. I don't know if any of them are really gonna to make a huge impact. Are you gonna try to save some flexibility tonight, or is that not a factor for you?
No, I'm not. There's nothing that I'm really waiting on. Like, plus I'm gonna have spots open because Phoenix happens to be the last game on the slate with Devin Booker out. So I'm gonna have plenty of exposure to the island game at the end anyway. But like if Schroeder's out, it's nothing that I'm likely to want to like rework my lineups for. So yeah, I don't anticipate doing that.
Yeah, same. So that makes it a lot easier. We can just play who we think are the best plays, not worry about the late swapping as much, although it can always surprise you. All right, so the rest of Cleveland, Mobley, Jared Allen, Kevin Love, always kind of intriguing options. Kevin Love has seen his minutes kind of like yo-yo a bunch. Like for some reason, Dean Wade kind of has kept his spot in the rotation, so he's a little bit hard to trust. What have you noticed with Kevin Love recently? Because it seems like his minutes are all over the place.
I've noticed that I've been wrong like every single day. But one thing that did stand out from the last game, not even that he played 26 minutes, because I still thought that was in his range of outcomes, even though we had gotten 14 and 16. Dean Wade did not play in the second half of that game. So that is, I think, some reason for encouragement, because like you said, it shouldn't like shock anybody if Dean Wade just falls out of the rotation, especially once Garland gets back. So I still think it's like on average, you're probably getting 21 to 22 minutes from Love. He's averaged about 21 minutes per game in the games that all three of Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen have been active. But in this spot, not this price tag, if he gets 21 to 22 minutes, he still looks okay. And if he happens to get 26, he's probably a really good play. So I do still like the volatility and taking chances on him in tournaments. And I'm mildly encouraged by the fact that Wade didn't play in the second half.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good thing to notice that the rotation was different in the second half. All right, guys, before we get to the next game, I want to mention we got a lot of tools on the website. Our weekly pass for all the sports is $29.95, or if you want just NBA, it's $16 a week. You get a lot of tools in your arsenal you can use, including the boom bust tool, which kind of like measures the ownership versus the probability of success. You can get the community with our Discord, ownership projections, which are free tonight. So make sure to try those out tonight. And then if you are more of a budget player, then we have a $4.95 a week package with the Express that has grades, lineup builder, and the big board. So I kind of designed a little bit of a light version. And then Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on. Of course, we use that a ton. Stop guessing, start winning. All right. Next game, New York at Philadelphia. New York, they kind of have decided to Kemba Walker, like, seems like every month it's different, but this month they're not playing him. So Alec Burks has been getting a lot of minutes. His price hasn't quite caught up at 5,300, so he's kind of an interesting value. Is he your favorite Nick tonight?
Using that word pretty loosely, but yeah, I guess so. The issue with Burks is that he doesn't do a whole lot. Like, the minutes should be there. He's averaging about 34 minutes per game when he has started without Kemba or Derrick Rose, which is the case tonight. But he's also averaging like 0.8 fantasy points per minute. His usage rate is less than 20%. His assist percentage is in the teens. Rebounding percentage is sub 10%. So you're just talking about somebody that's out there for a nice chunk of minutes and is affordable, but that you can't really count on to do a whole lot while he's out there. So pretty difficult to trust, but does project reasonably well for his salary. I do think that guys like Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, and even Evan Fournier project pretty similarly relative to salary as well, though. So overall, this is just a team that I don't really see any priorities, but if you in individual tournament lineups want to take a shot at one of the starters and just hope for the best, I think they all kind of look the same across the board.
Yeah, none of them really stand out to me either. Evan Fournier has been playing like absurd minutes in the last couple, which is stood out, but the pricing doesn't seem to be like particularly favorable for the Knicks. To get some action on this game, I bet the Mitchell Robinson over on blocks. So that one, I think his line was only like 0.5, which I was pretty surprised by, but didn't work out last time. So hopefully gets back on the block train here. On the Philadelphia side, I think this is a team that people are a lot more excited about with James Harden. He's been really impressive so far as a Sixer. His assist rate has been 55%, although his usage hasn't been high in the first games. I mean, like going from the Nets with Durant and sometimes Irving, but a lot of times mostly Durant, and then kind of going to play with Embiid, who he kind of has a high assist rating or assist percentage as well, kind of similar to Durant and usage. So I'm a little bit hesitant to really think that this change of team is going to make a huge impact on Harden's stats. What are you thinking?
I think his assist percentage goes up. I think he fits really well with Embiid. I think you see the usage rate continue to be in like the 23 to 25% range, because that's kind of what we had seen in Brooklyn as well when he was playing with combinations of Durant and Irving, was that Harden's usage rate actually did come down, but he's still going to get to the line a lot. And I think he still does a very good job in terms of getting assists here, working with Embiid and also just having the ball in his hands a lot. Like, we had the stretch, I think it was last season, when initially Kyrie Irving was playing on ball and Harden was basically just playing, off ball as the two guard. And then they switched and Harden became the point guard. And you just saw the assist percentage skyrocket over that stretch of games. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to maintain the 55 to 60% that he has right now, but I do think that you continue to see very high assist rate for James Harden.
Agreed. Yeah, I think his assists are going to be there. It's just like the line is 11.5 today on the books. I'm like, damn, that if he's averaging 11.5 assists per game as a Sixer, that would be like one of the highest averages of any player in like recent history. So I'm not completely sold on that yet. Took some unders there, but Embiid, it seems like his stats haven't really been impacted a ton, and I'm sure he's the recipient of a lot of assists from Harden. So he looks like a strong option at center today. He's 11.6K, so he's definitely priced like it. How does he stack up to other studs today?
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks good, and he's not getting quite as much ownership as some of the other ones either. He still has around a 38% usage rate in the couple of games he's played with Harden, and I don't necessarily think that comes down, because it is a little bit lower than where it was at prior to Harden coming. You were talking about getting 40+% from Embiid. I think the biggest drop off is going to be in his assist numbers, but like it's not like he's going to start getting 0 assists. I think it's just going to go down a little bit, but could also be made up for in terms of efficiency. Playing with a much better offensive player in Harden. So I think Embiid still looks very, very good.
Great. We did have a super chat from Jake. Thanks for super chat. He says, quick summary of Indiana Orlando. I think for me, like Brogdon is kind of interesting tournament option, and then Mo Bamba. What's your summary of that game?
Yeah, Brogdon healed, Carter Bamba.
Nice. All right, so I hope that helps there. All right, so Philadelphia, I did notice Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey, their usage has gone down since Harden has been on the team, and the assist numbers are down. So I'm just kind of deprioritizing them until I see like a price drop or some improvement in their stats. Do you think they're gonna kind of like not be as productive with Harden on the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll still have their games, but at their respective salaries, I think it's pretty difficult to get there. Like so far through the first couple of games, Maxey's usage is higher than Harris's. I don't necessarily know that continues, but it certainly could. But either way, like 7K for Harris, 6,600 for Maxey on a slate with as many good plays as we have today, it just makes it pretty difficult for me to want to get to either one.
Yeah, definitely. So that one's pretty easy. Let's go to the next game then. So we got Miami at Milwaukee. On the Miami side, Kyle Lowry, he's out. He missed last game as well. So Gabe Vincent got the start. Gabe Vincent's price is still low at 4,200, and he did get quite a number of minutes with more than 30. So does that make you interested in Gabe Vincent again today?
Yeah, I do think the emergence of Cameron Payne with Booker out makes Vincent, look relatively worse, but I think he's still a good value. He's likely to give you 32 to 34 minutes. He's not the highest usage guy, but he just does a decent job of, scoring enough, getting enough assists that if he's out there for 32 to 34 minutes, he's likely to pay off a $4,200 salary pretty easily. Kind of similar rates to Alec Burks, just, $1,100 less expensive.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. It's interesting, like, because I wouldn't necessarily expect him to get so many minutes with Lowry out, especially with Tyler Hero kind of being the guy that's gotten more minutes this season. But Hero, I guess the team has kind of deprioritized him in the last couple months. Have you seen anything with Hero?
I mean, just that he's been playing poorly, but yeah. I think the minutes can still be there for Vincent. I don't have it in front of you right now, but I think he's averaged like 32 minutes per game in his starts without Lowry this year.
Yeah. So Hero's he's relatively reasonably priced, so maybe a guy you could target for a bounce back game. Now Butler and Bam always are kind of good options, but do you see anything to target Butler or Bam tonight?
I think it's a little bit easier to get to Butler just because of his positional eligibility. We know that Bam has a very high ceiling, but also plenty of other center options to compete with. But so a little bit easier to get to Butler at small forward. His assist numbers go up without Kyle Lowry, but the usage isn't going to really change because Lowry's not a high usage guy. So I think Butler is, a decent option just because of being a small forward.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that it's reasonable to take some shots on. And then a couple of guys are cheap. I mean, PJ Tucker, 3,700. He does get minutes, but the volatility is just not there. And then Caleb Martin, like maybe he could contend for some minutes. I think that there aren't a ton of like 3K players today that are playable. Are you going to take any stabs on Caleb Martin?
Yeah, if he's in, I expect him to play around 22 minutes. I don't know how necessary it ends up being on this slate just because we have a couple of value pieces that, like, yeah, they're going to be really popular, but they also just look unbelievably good and not really in the same category as somebody like Martin. And then also there's a really strong mid-range, so I don't know how often I'm going to really care to, like, go, try and force in, like, two of Jokic and Embiid or Giannis or something. But if you are going that route, Martin certainly is cheap enough at 3,100.
Awesome. We got a word that Markelle Fultz is going to play around 16 to 20 minutes tonight, so that reaffirms what we were expecting already. All right, on the Milwaukee side of this game, there's not a ton of injury news to report. George Hill is still out. Other than that, pretty constant. One exception, Javon Carter is kind of he got signed recently. He's been getting some rotational minutes, which I found a little bit surprising, but I don't know if that makes a huge difference for the team. But Drew Holiday, Giannis, Portis, all solid options on any given night. How do you feel about them tonight?
So I think the matchup is obviously difficult, but one thing I mentioned earlier is this game actually has the potential to, even though Miami's a good team defensively, I do kind of like that this game is pretty likely to be one of the more competitive on the slate, given that half the games on the slate have double-digit spreads. You could certainly see this one come down to the wire, in which case maybe it ends up being a little bit different than normal, and you actually get Giannis playing as many or more minutes than some of the other high-priced guys, also not getting a ton of ownership. So Giannis, I like getting to a lot. He also has power forward eligibility, so that's pretty nice. As far as Holiday, Middleton, Portis, they all seem pretty much correctly priced, if not a little overpriced to me. But Giannis, I do like in tournaments quite a bit.
Yeah, it seems like a common thread through tonight's slate is that there's a lot of players in this playable, but not the standout range. So that's going to make tonight's slate a little bit tricky. Now, we do have the boom bust tool to really help manage this trade-off between ownership and optimal rate. So Giannis, this is a really bad example because he's 11.3% ownership and 11.5% optimal in our simulation. So that's kind of like just saying, if you play him, it probably won't move the needle a ton in either direction. So this is kind of how it feels like on today's slate in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of plays like that, and then there's a handful of guys that are just unbelievably good.
That's a good point. A lot of these guys are going to be coming up in the later games here. First, I want to talk about our sponsor, PrizePicks. So if you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, they have daily prop-based contests. You build a card of 2 to 5 props, and NBA, they have a ton of different NBA ones, but also pretty much any sport you can think of, a lot of which aren't covered on other sites. So it's pretty fun. You can use the promo code Awesemo for $100 first match deposit, and you can win up to 10 times your entry fees in these parlays. And we have the tool on the site to help you make these picks with the free PrizePicks NBA prop tool, which compares our projections versus the props. So pretty nice. You get 1 free month if you sign up and make a deposit using that promo code Awesemo. Let's look at some of their props tonight. So one that I'm kind of interested in is Malcolm Brogdon. As we were talking about, he hasn't played in the fourth quarter in the last couple games that he's been in. So it makes his minutes look a little bit lower than he would average, in my opinion. And this rebounds prop is the top of the board. Their line is 4 at PrizePicks. And I know that the line at a lot of sportsbooks is 4.5 because I bet the over on that too. But we haven't projected for 5.85. So I'm taking the over on the Brogdon rebounds. Which props are standing out to you on PrizePicks?
I like the under on Halliburton 16.5 points. Mentioned it when we talked about that game, but I do think that his usage rate takes a bit of a hit with Brogdon being back. So I like the under there. And then we haven't talked about this game yet, but the over on Domantas Sabonis, 17.5 points. He has seen a nice little bump in usage rate since going to the Kings. He has a good matchup against New Orleans. I like the over there.
Awesome. So I just fired these up. Halliburton under points, Brogdon over points, Domantas Sabonis over points. So are we going with flex play? We got hit 2 out of 3, or should we do power play? Go for the big money, hit 3 out of 3.
Always go big.
I'll go big. All right, let's do it. All right. So if you guys are tailing us here, then hopefully we can get a good sweat. All right, Sacramento at New Orleans. Sacramento is a 6-point dog. But Sabonis being on the team is pretty intriguing. Going from I guess going from playing with like Levert and Brogdon to playing with Fox and Barnes, like probably not a huge difference. And his rebounding has been really high. The usage 24%, assists 27%. Nothing too crazy. But it looks like a solid option. Minutes haven't been great though. I don't know. How are you feeling about Sabonis and DFS?
I think he's a lot easier to get to on FanDuel than on DraftKings. I like him tonight, in this matchup, but he's center only on DraftKings at 9,800, which just makes it really, really difficult. His rates across the board have gone up since coming to Sacramento, but kind of like you were hinting at, I don't know how sustainable that is because, like, for example, his potential rebounds or his rebound chances per 36 is almost identical so far in Sacramento as it was in Indiana, but he's got a several point bump in his rebounding percentage. Same thing with his assist percentage, basically averaging the same potential assists per 36, but his assist percentage is higher. So don't really know if those numbers are going to hold. We do know that Sabonis is a very good point per minute guy, regardless of if you're talking about Indiana or Sacramento. It's not like he's some random guy that has just been playing well with the Kings. The playing time is mildly concerning, but like last game he was in foul trouble. The more concerning part to me is especially once Richaun Holmes comes back, are they going to be willing to say like, oh, okay, Sabonis plays 38, Holmes plays 10, or are they going to kind of just lock into like 34 minutes for Sabonis, 14 for Holmes? So that's somewhat concerning to me, but it's still a good spot. I still like Sabonis' ceiling. I think he's just going to be a lot easier to get into lineups on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Nice. So that's definitely a good tip if you're wanting Sabonis. It makes more sense on FanDuel based on the salary. I like that. And Holmes is questionable tonight, so we'll see what happens with him. But yeah, I don't know if like they've kind of been using Damian Jones and Alex Len a little bit. I don't know if that makes a huge difference. Trey Lyles is really the guy everyone's looking at tonight on the Kings. He was announced as a starter late into the slate on Monday. And I noticed our buddy Eddie Lai, co-founder of the site, he took down 100K. He made the swap on the Lyles. So that was pretty cool to see. Now everyone's on Lyles where they didn't make the swap last time. He's 46% owned in our ownership projections. So I'm looking at this kind of like, okay, Mezzi Metu, like when he got the start at power forward, he'd get like 24 minutes a game, like Marvin Bagley, pretty much the same. So is Trey Lyles the next guy to fill that role, or do you see his role being different?
I mean, I think you probably get 26-ish on average. If he's playing well, he certainly can get more minutes. There's no guarantee he's in the closing lineup because we know Harrison Barnes can play the 4. You can easily have, Jeremy Lamb or DiVincenzo. You can have 2 of Lamb, DiVincenzo, Davion Mitchell in the closing lineup potentially. But at this price tag, it doesn't matter too much to me. Like if you give Lyles 24 minutes, he still looks like a great value. If he happens to get to 28 or 30, then obviously he's just even better. But given the fact that there's a lot of strong, like upper mid-range and top tier guys on this slate, the matchup's good. He has power forward eligibility. I have a really difficult time getting away from him, even at high ownership.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get away from him. Like if we're looking at the boom bust tool, like, okay, so Payne and Lyles, they have 72% boom and 54% boom respectively, which is the probability of going 10 plus 5x, and for Lyles that'd be like 26.5 points. So half the time you're getting more than that. The next guys on the list are like Keon Johnson, who I don't feel terribly confident in, although he is starting for the Blazers. Besides that, Elfrid Payton, like I don't think you can play him and Payne in the same lineup probably, and I don't know. We'll get to Payton in a little bit here, but slim pickings at the bottom range, which is kind of interesting tonight. All right. What about the rest of the Kings? Fox, Holiday, Barnes, any interest?
I think Fox is the second guy for me, at least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Sabonis is probably second. But 8,100 is a pretty good price tag. We haven't seen a drop-off for Fox in terms of his usage or his assist percentage since Sabonis came over, which is nice to see. He's playing huge minutes. So I think he looks pretty good. And then in tournaments, if you are trying to get, not even necessarily as like a pivot in the sense of playing them instead of Payne or instead of Lyles, but lower owned guys that I think do have a lot of volatility in their playing time. Looking at this combination of Dante DiVincenzo, Davion Mitchell, and Jeremy Lamb, they're kind of just like combining for 65 to 70 minutes a night. And how those minutes are distributed is anybody's guess, which obviously makes them really risky, but it also gives them pretty high ceilings in tournaments. Basically, so far, we've seen DiVincenzo just living in like the 20 to 22 minute range, but we've seen Lamb, go 18 minutes to 30 minutes or 30 minutes to 18 minutes. You've seen Davion Mitchell go, 18 to 30 back to 20. I think it's a situation where on average, they probably just kind of all come out around 22 minutes per game, over the next month or whatever time span you want to talk about. But night to night, if one of them's playing well, there's really nobody blocking them from being in the closing lineup, because the closing lineup is Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, and I think basically whatever two players are playing well out of Lyles, Lamb, DiVincenzo, Mitchell, Holiday for the most part.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a hard one. Like none of them really stand out from a points per dollar standpoint. So we're kind of just trying to guess a little bit like who's having the hot game tonight. So that's always very difficult to predict, obviously. So yeah, I think you could try to take some shots there. I don't feel terribly confident about it, but we got some news here. Chris Duarte has been ruled out. So let's go back to the Pacers real quick. He was projected to come off the bench. So the starters, Heel, Brogdon, Halliburton. I don't think that will really impact the minutes for those guys necessarily. Who do you see this impacting? Or is it just going to go to other bench guys?
I assume it goes to other bench guys. We did get Stevenson back, so he hadn't been playing. I don't know, like Jalen Smith had been playing 24 to 26 minutes off the bench even when he wasn't starting. Maybe he stays in that range now. 5,300 still, pretty risky play. I assume that it kind of just ends up being, more minutes for Dwayne Washington, maybe Kiefer Sykes or Terry Taylor's in the rotation. I don't think it has a big DFS impact.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything from that other than, I think Jalen Smith could have been interesting if he was priced a little bit lower. All right, let's go to New Orleans on the other side of the Sacramento game. So one of the guys I'm kind of looking at and I'm curious about is Jackson Hayes. He started the last game and played 30 minutes in the first three quarters. So obviously if he got that kind of playing time on a regular basis, he's way underpriced at 4,900. But okay, Sacramento, they're starting Trey Lyles at power forward. I think that's a decent matchup for Jackson Hayes to get out there like a pretty traditional big. So do you think he gets kind of run again tonight?
Yeah, I think they go back to him as the starter. They've said that they want to keep Devontae Graham coming off the bench now. So I think Hayes, you've seen some foul trouble recently. I know a game the other day he picked up, I think it was 3 fouls in the first 4 minutes and just didn't play the rest of the first half. So that kept his playing time down. But on average, I think you're getting around 28 minutes from him in his starts. Obviously, if he's playing well, he could certainly play more. But power forward eligibility, only 4,900, a very appealing game. I like getting to Jackson Hayes quite a bit.
Nice. Yeah, I think he's got upside for sure. That's a good point. That game where he played less minutes, he was in foul trouble. In fact, he only played the first 4 minutes and then didn't play the rest of the first half. So that does kind of show that he's got a lot of volatility, which is good in DFS tournaments. So I like that. Now McCollum, he's had several games on the Pelicans so far. It looks like his stats have been up a little bit since the Blazers earlier this season. And then Ingram, always a reasonable option. Are they standing out to you tonight?
To some extent, yeah. McCollum, I think, looks the best out of the group. The issue is that there's a lot of guys either a little bit more expensive than him, or you have, Donovan Mitchell against Houston that we haven't talked about, who's $200 less on DraftKings. But I do think McCollum looks very good here. His usage rate, like you said, is up. His assist percentage is up. He's averaging around 36 minutes per game. This game is very appealing in terms of pace, in terms of a bad opposing defense, in terms of two teams that suck. So it's probably a competitive game, or more likely at least to be a competitive game throughout. So I do like McCollum a lot. I think Jonas Valanciunas probably goes nuts, but again, there's just so many good centers. It's tough to point to one at 8K and be like, oh yeah, this is the guy I'm just jamming into all of my lineups, because you're giving up a lot by doing that. But I think he certainly looks good. And then Ingram has seen a bit of a drop off in terms of assist percentage in particular, but also a little bit in terms of usage rate since McCollum came over. It is still a good matchup though. He is affordably priced at 7,900, and on DraftKings he has that small forward eligibility, which is really nice as well.
Nice. Yeah, I think Valanciunas is kind of interesting. The matchup seems to be a nice one here versus Sabonis. All right. Next game, Utah at Houston. Utah 14-point favorite in this one. So I think Houston obviously is going to make your stats per minute look really good, but then the blowout potential is pretty large in this game. We actually have so have this as a 32% chance of a blowout, which is quite high. So I don't really focus on that too much, because if you have players that are part of the blowout squad and not the one being blown out, you usually get there. So how are you feeling about the Jazz tonight?
Yeah, like it's going to be tough for Houston to hang in this game. And one negative or slight negative that I mentioned this morning is Quinn Snyder actually is typically pretty good about leaving his starters in pretty deep into blowouts when they're at home. But he doesn't do it quite as often on the road. But like you were saying, it's not nearly as scary to take guys on the team that are doing the blowing out, because it can be frustrating when you sweat those teams because you're like, oh, Donovan Mitchell has 50 in 3 quarters. And then all you remember is that Donovan Mitchell finished at 50 because he didn't get to play the fourth, when really he was just producing at a crazy high rate. And that's why the game blew out. And also, even if I knock a couple of minutes off of average projections for these guys, they still look incredibly good. In particular, Donovan Mitchell, if you give him 31 or 32 minutes, still looks very good at 8,800. And this is someone that typically plays 33 or 34. Same goes for Gobert. If you give him 28 minutes, he still looks really good at 7,800. If he happened to play 32, he's extremely good. So it's not like when you do the projections, it's not like you need to give them every minute they could possibly get for them to look good. Those two in particular look really good regardless. Then I think you get to Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, all as reasonable plays as well.
Yeah, Gobert is kind of standing out to me tonight. One thing I noticed, kind of betting the props, is that this current Houston lineup allows 30% more blocks than average. So Gobert being one of the top shot blockers in the league, I don't think that it's probably only a 1 fantasy point difference, So I don't want to over exaggerate this, but I do like the matchup. He's only 7,800, and the minutes have been a little bit down, but he was coming back from a long absence. So he might be the guy that's standing out to me the most on the Jazz, if not for being a center, which is just a little bit harder to roster. Any interest in the other Jazz?
Yeah, I mean, just those guys fall back into they look fine range with Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson. I mean, even Whiteside's probably going to smash whatever minutes he's on the floor, but it's hard to give a lot of center exposure to a backup on the slate.
Yeah. All right. On the Houston side, we got Schroeder questionable. Eric Gordon is out for rest today, so we're expecting Garrison Matthews to get a start here, and he could be a value play, but man, his per minute numbers aren't exactly inspiring. So, do you see Eric Gordon being out as something that's impacting the slate, or does Kevin Porter being back for this game kind of negate that?
I think it mostly negates it. If Schroeder is in, I assume you're probably getting 28 to 30 minutes from Schroeder. You're probably getting 28 to 30 from Matthews. It would make them both look okay. I mean, Matthews at 3,400 obviously would be a little bit easier to get to, but like you were saying, he's also not a particularly good fantasy producer. So yeah, there's nothing here that really stands out to me, because this is a team that even with Gordon out, they just have so many bodies in their rotation that it's tough to pinpoint any one player as being really good. And then, Christian Wood is $8,000 with only center eligibility on DraftKings. That's pretty tough to prioritize. Kevin Porter's, a sub 1 fantasy point per minute guy in a really tough matchup. If you are playing 150 lineups and want to throw, $4,100 Şengün into some power forward spots, that's fine, because he could potentially get a couple extra minutes if this game does blow out. But there's nothing from Houston that stands out to me. I think they are pretty easily the least appealing team on the slate.
Yeah, fair enough. I could take a few shots on Matthews. Like, he does have 30-minute potential, but that's not the most exciting regardless, especially with Trey Lyles and Cameron Payne on the slate. All right, let's move on here. We got the Awesemo Hall of Fame. So this the avatar contest, awesemo.com/avatar, where if you rock our avatar and so you finish top 3 in a tournament with up to 5,000 people, you can tweet your win at Awesemo HOF to get a free month of Awesemo Platinum. And of course, we always like seeing people in the community being successful. And like in DFS, like it's not easy to finish top 3. So it's a good reminder that the process is working here. So, all right, let's get to the top Hall of Fame here. Smoke Jones, Awesemo HOF, good night. That was almost a great night. Thanks. He finished first in the single entry high five. First off, 2,400 people for $1,000. Pretty cool. Scott Turman, he said, finished for first in the Daily Dollar. Had to do a few coin flips. Eric, Greg, Brian, and Laffy, appreciate the advice. Man, these are some good ROIs. $300 off $1. Tio Deck, he always finds a way to bink. So he got another 5-figure takedown on the after hours slate, 13.75K. So congrats to Tio Deck. Got Terry FLA boy, Awesemo HOF, Show My Money, Greg, Josh, and I changed my icon, but it doesn't want to switch over. So just go to awesemo.com/avatar and you can save it, put it on DraftKings. It says, love you guys. Can't wait to get, or can I get a free month? I'd allow it. 5K on the fadeaway. Pretty solid. Congrats to Terry. And then Nadu, Awesemo NBA, first top 5 finish this year. Keep the great content coming, Laffy and Josh. So $250, not too shabby. If you have a nice win tonight, don't hesitate to hit us up at Awesemo HOF and flex it and get that free month. All right. Oklahoma City at Denver. Oklahoma City, Josh Giddey, Ty Jerome, Lou Dort, and Aaron Wiggins continue to be out. So Aaron Wiggins did start the last game, so that does call into question who starts this one, or does it even matter? What do you think?
It kind of matters. Like, Vic Krejci started the second half. If he plays 28 to 30 minutes, he's not a great value, but he's 3K playing 28 to 30 minutes. So he kind of just becomes the Aaron Wiggins where it's like, yeah, this guy sucks, but he's also really cheap. But also, you could get Pokashevsky at 4,100, who I think is a good play regardless. But if he starts, it would certainly be reason to be, bullish on his minutes. I think he plays around 28 anyway. Maybe going a little bit over-owned right now. Kind of surprised to see how much ownership he's getting. But he does have a variety of ways to get there because, for one, OKC is just shorthanded. For two, they could get blown out and he gets a little bit more run. But also one thing that, again, you don't want to pay too much attention to it, but the difference between Denver's starters and second unit is night and day. And if Pokashevsky's coming off the bench, he's playing most of his minutes at least against that second unit, which basically resembles a G League team. So Pokashevsky's, production could certainly be better against those guys than it would be, in general in this matchup.
Yeah, Pokashevsky is a good call. He did start last year at small forward, so that wouldn't be crazy to see him get a start, even though Krejci did start the second half last game. So that'll be something to look out for. Always get a little bit of a surprise in the starting lineup each night, so good to look out. Thanks to Adam for the super chat. He says, how much Allen and Wiles is too much tonight? I'm kind of wondering who Allen is. I mean,
I'm assuming Jared.
He doesn't stand out as someone I'm really banking on tonight. What about you?
So yeah, I think it's kind of like two separate things. I don't think there is any amount of Lyles that's too much. Like, I'm not saying you just lock him in, but I wouldn't be surprised if I end up with him in close to every lineup. Allen, I think, is a very good play. Like, he's in a really good spot. He's, obviously a really good rebounder. He could absolutely just torch this front court. The issue that you run into is just kind of like I was saying with, I don't remember what other center I was talking about, but it's just, I think Joval, like, it's just really difficult to pick one center there and say, like, this is the guy that's going to beat the other 6 guys that project basically the same. So that's always something that's, kind of difficult and risky to do. So I do think they're very different in that Lyles just doesn't really have alternatives around him that project remotely close at his price point. Whereas Allen, even though I think he is a very good tournament play, there's a lot of guys priced around him that functionally are the same.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's a lot of a lot of similar plays in that mid tier where the low tier is really limited to a couple of guys tonight. So thanks K2 Superman for the super chat as well. All right, let's go to the other Thunder guys. Pokashevsky, nice value play. One guy that's been getting a ton of minutes recently that came out of nowhere is Olivier Sarr. I'm just not sure what to make of that. Do you have any idea?
I don't buy it. Roby was in foul trouble last game, and so you basically got 48 minutes split between Roby and Sarr, but it was split basically like 26 Sarr and like 21, 22 Roby. Assuming Roby starts again, I think it's more likely that you get either like a 24-24 or a 26-22 in Roby's favor if he's able to avoid foul trouble. That is obviously a huge if in this matchup, but I'm not banking on Sarr coming out and getting like 26 minutes or anything. And he hasn't been a particularly very, very small sample this year, but hasn't been a particularly productive point per minute guy either. So if he were like power forward eligible, I think maybe I would throw some darts there. At center, it becomes pretty difficult though, because even let's say Sarr goes for like 22 points. Obviously, that's fine for point per dollar for his salary, but the fact that it means you're giving up what's likely to be a couple of at least one of like the highest scoring guys on the slate because of how loaded that position is makes it kind of tough.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Sarr, tough to bank on him. They've used a 3-man center rotation as well a lot of the year. So
yeah, no guarantee that favors DNPs again tonight.
Yeah, exactly. He could even start. Who knows?
Right.
K2 Superman hit us up with another super chat, this time with a question. So thanks for the super chat. Tips on uniques based on the slate size, I think he's asking. So I think that my general thought is there's like a ton of different good combinations of lineups with the slate that has at least like 5 or more games. So I think if you do 3 uniques, you're not sacrificing much as far as strong lineups, but you're also not competing with yourself too much if like one of your lineups is having a good night. How do you handle uniques?
Kind of depends for me, like on what I'm doing with randomness too. I usually use 1 unique because I use enough randomness when I build my lineups that if I use 3 uniques and that level of randomness, I would end up with some lineups getting pretty far away from where I want them to be. I typically don't end up with too much overlap. Like it's pretty unusual for me, especially on a slate of normal size. It's pretty unusual for me to like be going through my lineups and be like, oh wow, I just have like 1v1s with myself. So yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like a sliding scale in general. I think when you're building lineups between, you obviously want to be building lineups that are similarly good to each other, without like just overlapping a ton. I typically use randomness more than uniques.
All right. On the Denver side, let's get through Denver quick because we got this Phoenix team that is probably the biggest of the slate. I'd say Jokic, obviously, always a great way to spend your salary. Besides that, Barton, Monty Morris, Jeff Green, okay guys to target, but nothing special. What are you seeing?
Yep, that's how I see it. Jokic obviously is great. Still, in terms of like how much you get to, it probably like you probably shouldn't, unless there ends up being like no ownership on Jokic for some weird reason. You probably shouldn't necessarily be saying like, oh, Jokic is certainly going to smash Embiid or smash Giannis or whatever. Like all 3 of those guys look very good, but Jokic I think is the highest projected guy on the slate. He's always a good play, and kind of like we had talked about with the Utah game. If Jokic has a really good game here, chances are OKC is not keeping it close. But if he has a really good game, it doesn't really matter, if he played 3 quarters or 4, if he's just has a really, really efficient 3 quarters. So really like Jokic. Barton, Gordon, Morris all look fine. I think I mentioned Barton on FanDuel in my tournament video. He had shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Seemed a little bit underowned, but I think Jokic is very clearly the priority here.
Definitely. Thanks, Uzi, for the super chat. He says Miles Bridges Payne or Mitchell Caleb Martin. I feel like Payne's not someone you want to leave off your roster tonight, so I'd probably go with that one. How are you leading?
Yeah, would feel disingenuous if I picked the side that didn't have someone that's probably going to be in every single lineup I make.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about that game then. Portland at Phoenix. On the Portland side, man, their squad is really looking rough recently. So you got Simons and Hart starting, but then the other starters have been Keon Johnson, LB, and Drew Eubanks, who got traded there. So there is some value, namely Keon Johnson and Eubanks. Keon Johnson hasn't played much this year. He was injured most of the year. He got traded to Portland. So that kind of makes me interested that maybe they like actually went out and got him for a purpose, and the minutes could be scaling up as he's coming back from this injury. So how are you making, how are you seeing this situation with Keon Johnson?
I feel pretty comfortable with his minutes because like you're saying, he's come back from injury. He's in the starting lineup now. You still don't have Justice Winslow. He's a former first round pick. Didn't really ever play with the Clippers because obviously they didn't need him. So like Portland has every reason to be playing him a good amount down the stretch here. My bigger question is what type of production do we get? Because the guy's played like 17 NBA games in his career. At 3,100, obviously that question isn't quite as important as it will be when he starts to be like 4K or 4,200. So I do think he looks like a very good point per dollar value just based on the fact he's likely to play at least 26 to 28 minutes. The only kind of concern I have here is that he's projected for 24% ownership. We have him with about a 14% chance of being in the optimal lineup. But not only that, when you think about like the total ownership of your lineups, I'm not really willing to get away from Cameron Payne. I'm not really willing to get away from Trey Lyles. Of the popular, very good point per dollar plays, I think Keon Johnson, I'm a little more willing to get away from him than I am those other two guys if I need to.
Definitely. Let's go to Phoenix. We only have a couple minutes here. So Cameron Payne, he hasn't played in a while because of a wrist injury, but Chris Paul and Devin Booker are out tonight. So, man, this one is tough because so campaign, since he hasn't played in a while, like there could be a minutes limit, but then that's kind of counteracted to some extent because he has a wrist injury. So like I'm sure he has had nothing else to do but go on the treadmill and get conditioned. So what kind of minutes are you expecting?
I think 28's a pretty good guess. Like if he had just been in the rotation and I had no concerns about his conditioning whatsoever, I would just assume he was playing like 36 minutes or something. So I think 28 is a pretty, given that it was a wrist injury, unless we get news like Cameron Payne is going to be significantly limited or something, I think 28's a pretty safe guess. And even at 28 minutes, he just very clearly looks like the best play tonight.
Definitely, I agree. Now, with Devin Booker being out, who do you think gets that starting spot?
I think it ends up being Cameron Payne and Cameron Johnson both starting.
Cameron Johnson. Okay. So I think okay, so campaign, we're kind of locking him in. Of the rest of the guys, no one is really like jumping out a ton at me. Cameron Johnson, maybe a good value. How are you playing this one besides Cameron Payne?
I really like DeAndre Ayton and I really like Cameron Johnson. I think that Jay Crowder looks good at 5,100. Going back the last couple of years, when you take Chris Paul and Devin Booker off the floor, Crowder actually gets a little bit of a bump in assist percentage, which is nice. Mikal Bridges could certainly have a good game. He plays a ton of minutes. There's a lot of usage available, but I think it's worth noting that over the last couple of seasons, his rates don't change no matter what you do. DeAndre Ayton got a nice bump without either of them on the floor over that time. So I do like both of those guys a lot. Obviously, it's a very good matchup as well. I expect Cameron Johnson to play mid-30s in minutes. I think you're probably getting around 30 at least from Ayton. So I would say priorities are Payne 1, Ayton Johnson 2, and 3. Crowder 4, Bridges 5, and then throw darts at whatever out of McGee, Holiday. I don't know that Elfrid Payton plays tonight. I know that you seem to feel differently. If you think he's playing, then obviously 3,300 is dart worthy as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of tweaking things as we go here. So Aaron Holiday, it looks like he's been getting more of the backup minutes at point guard. So is he someone that you take a shot on?
I mean, he's 4,400, so in 150 lineups, do I maybe have like a Aaron Holiday lineup? Sure. But even if I give him like 24 minutes here, he doesn't really show up for me.
Yeah. All right, cool.
This team's just like, it is a team where I want to kind of be getting to a lot of different pieces because I don't have a very good grasp on like where the usage is going to go outside of Cameron Payne because none of these guys are really like creators. DeAndre Ayton, Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, Holiday, Craig, Shamet. None of these guys are the guys that you would look to and say like, oh yeah, they're just going to soak up a bunch of usage. So it would like you could just see kind of a surprise guy step up, but going back and looking through what we could find over the last couple of seasons, it seems like Ayton, Johnson, Payne are the most likely here.
Definitely. All right, guys, a couple of super chats before we sign off here. Michael, he says tips on Fantasy Cruncher would be helpful. I would go on our YouTube and just search for FC. We got a ton of content with that. Or if you remember the site, go to the game plan videos. We did a ton of Fantasy Cruncher content on those. Sean says DeMarcus Cousins definitely in a FanDuel play. I don't think he's going to be in the rotation if Zeke Naji is in, so I would avoid him. Natsu says, what players groups would you set for Portland? That one's kind of interesting. I guess Eubanks and Watford comes to mind. Any other?
Yeah, I think
combos?
Eubanks, Watford, and probably Keon Johnson, Greg Brown. That one could be more fluid, but I still like last game we basically got 48 minutes from them.
Okay, Terry just said where to find these FC videos in the chat here, so make sure to check those out. And we got a full show coming up for you right after this, so stay tuned. Eric and Greg on Live Before Lock. Give them a thumbs up just to get them stoked for the show. And thanks to our sponsor, PrizePicks. Make sure to check them out. Promo code Awesemo, $100 free plus a free month of Awesemo Plus. So, guys, good luck tonight and stay tuned.
This is one of my favorite Klein hits.
What is going on, guys? It is the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock Show Wednesday, which means I'm hosting. We're sponsored by PrizePicks, joined by Eric, at least for now. His internet looking a little bit sketchy right now. Right before the show started, he dropped off. It's not anything you could do anything about. It's happened to me on occasion before, but people should be aware. Who knows? When halfway through the show, it might be me taking over as opposed to you doing whatever rapping you were warming up before we started the show. Eric, please never do that again. But how are you doing today?
Oh, great. The internet's turning off. You're making fun of me before the show even starts. Things are normal over here, I would say. Let's go. Quack, quack. Seat back. Let's get to it.
There we go. We've got our biggest fan, Jazzy J. I'll make sure that all of his messages are showing. He does not like us. He says that we are losers. We are nerds. Most of those things are true. So what? I don't consider them to be negative. We have a slate today with a lot of moving pieces, mostly because Devin Booker, health and safety protocols, opening up all kinds of value from the Phoenix Suns. Here are the players we are still waiting on to get injury news on. Darius Garland is questionable to play. We also need that starting lineup for the Phoenix Suns. That's going to be important. Dennis Schroeder is questionable to play. Zeke Naji questionable. Rashawn Holmes questionable. I only bring up Rashawn Holmes because he is important for our inside jokes in terms of the DFS slate. He does not have very much matter or implication.
Hi, Joey.
Yeah. Which it's important because I want to tie in everything. Our group chat has to get a shout out here because Jordan thinks we bring it up too much. Joey has to get a shout out because he just does. But for today's particular slate, I want to start while we're at the guards. We're bringing up Campaign because I think if he gets a full workload, he's pretty clearly the top value option on the slate, but he hasn't played since the end of January. It's been a considerable amount of time off. How are you approaching him tonight?
Oh, I'm going to play a lot of him, but this isn't like yesterday where we had seen a game with 34 minutes from Malachi Flynn, and we played him in 100% of lineups there. The other difference, too, is he's not 3,100 or 3,300. He's priced up a little bit for the assumed role that he was going to have here, and that makes it fascinating. I know on the last – I don't know how you don't play a lot of him, so that's not really the question. The thing is 67% on DraftKings, which we're currently projecting him for an appropriate number at 4,300, with the uncertainty of not knowing what those minutes are going to look like first game back. And I assume a near full workload simply because it's a wrist injury. It's not a lower body injury, but there's enough uncertainty that exists there. Aaron Holiday's there. They probably don't want to be playing a whole lot of Elfrid Payton whatsoever, but for the most part, he's a guy you want to get a lot of, but I don't think he's like 100% play the way that Malachi Flynn was. And that's kind of the way people are treating him as it is.
Yeah, it just depends. I think we need more information here because if he starts and he's not limited, I was talking about this with Adam on the injury report show we do together. I just don't know where else the usage goes. Like, who else on the Phoenix Suns is going to take up usage other than DeAndre Ayton tonight? Like, Ayton should score all of the points possible because there just aren't other regular play. Like, there's no Chris Paul, there's no Devin Booker, guys out for the Suns. If it isn't Ayton or Payne taking shots, like who else is it going to be?
It's got to be a lot of Cameron Johnson. I mean, going back to his North Carolina days, that was his role. And, it's funny. This is a very inside tip, but Devin Booker, I was playing golf on Monday at Scottsdale National, and Devin Booker and Chris Paul's caddy was the guy that we had walking with us, the guy who had them out there like the week before. And apparently the thing that they kept saying over and over, because they're diehard Suns fans, was that Cameron Johnson needs to shoot the ball more. All they do is encourage this guy to shoot. He's a phenomenal three-point shooter going back to his North Carolina days. That was like the one talking point, because everybody shoots the shit talking basketball, and it's my favorite thing to talk. And that was kind of the takeaway they had from Chris Paul and Devin Booker a couple weeks ago, saying that was what they needed from him. And Cameron Johnson, no doubt about it, when he's out there willing to shoot, he can get hot and spike that kind of upside that you need to be able to take down tournaments with a guy who's at 5,300. I mean, that price has risen as it's gone on here the last couple of weeks. And, the Suns haven't lost 2 games here in a row in quite a while. Well, they're in danger of, a run here of poor outings if they don't get Devin Booker back sooner rather than later. I don't know what that whole situation is going to look like here, but as it stands today, I think you got to give a bump up to Cameron Johnson. I know our projections aren't completely in love with him, but around a 0.85 DraftKings points per minute guy. I think that he has to be leaned on a little bit offensively. Jay Crowder going back to Miami had times where he was going to be capable. Cameron Payne's going to have to be a guy who creates, and Aaron Holiday is going to have to be a guy who creates for this team. And, DeAndre Ayton, I know that you're talking about him there. I have my concerns that you don't have Chris Paul and Devin Booker helping him create shots. Might be a tougher road to sled. Now, against Portland, I think a little bit of that is a moot point. Maybe I'm talking a little more long-term there, but I'm going to prioritize Cameron Payne. That's not a surprise to anybody, not 100%, but Cameron Johnson's kind of the next guy for me. How about for you?
Well, I mean, just here's one thing that's really difficult too, is I love Ayton tonight. Ayton's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I have a lot of prop bets on Ayton as well. I think he's just being incredibly undervalued across the industry today, both by sports books. I mean, his points prop was 16.5. It's gone up to 18.5 now, depending where you look. I have him project for mid-20s real life points. But the other thing also is that, like you said, the matchup against Portland is really good. I don't know exactly the proper way to project his usage for this reason. Just looking at the on-off court numbers this year, with Chris Paul and Devin Booker off the court, do you know how many minutes Ayton has played this year?
No, I do not.
28. So it's not a lot. It's not a big sample size to draw from. But in those 28 minutes, 25% usage rate, scores 46.62 fantasy points per 36 minutes. Whatever, small sample size. We can't really draw that much from it. I'm going to try looking at the last two seasons. So if we look at both this year and last year to maybe try to draw some conclusions there. And then you look at the bigger sample size, DeAndre Ayton this year and last year, Chris Paul and Devin Booker off the court, 27% usage rate, scores over 50 fantasy points per 36 minutes. So I think Ayton should carry a really heavy workload, as should Cam Payne. I like both of them. Those are two of my favorite plays on the slate. But just kind of sticking with guards right now. And I know you said you're still going to be really heavy on Payne. I am too. But if there is somebody on the cheap end that you could pivot off of him with, who would it be? And also, I see the Darius Garland news. We're just talking about Phoenix. Now we'll hit on Garland next. We got plenty of time there.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time to be going. Gabe Vincent is a guy that I don't think it's a pivot necessarily, but I don't know why he's not garnering more attention. Sure, 4,200 here. Milwaukee, quote unquote, tougher spot, but at least it's up in pace here. They're still projected for 110 points here in this game. And there's just minute security there. I mean, 28 and then 33 here in the absence of Kyle Lowry. I don't really know why. I'm kind of shocked, actually, that he's not gaining any traction whatsoever there at that number. So I would say that it's not a direct pivot. You can play him alongside Cameron Payne. That's just fine. But that's a guy that I'm definitely getting over 15%. That's kind of the first guy who sticks out to me, that at the exact same number, why is he not garnering attention? Do you have any reasoning for that?
I haven't projected particularly well personally.
Okay. So I've got him projected around 26.5 fantasy points. And for me, that's really good here on this slate as it stands.
Yeah. So I have him for low 20s fantasy points. I have him in 5% of my lineup. So it's not like he's an outright fade, but I don't look at the ownership and think it's anything egregious. That's really the main reason why. It's a difficult matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks. He also played last game less minutes than I thought he was going to. I thought we were going to see Gabe Vincent play like 36 minutes. And not that he played a poor amount of minutes. 33 is still a healthy amount. But there's still a lot of guys out there that he's going to have to share the ball with. Something else also, Caleb Martin's in the mix. He could end up taking some minutes and they could play some smaller lineups. Tyler Hero could play more off the bench. Still Butler, Adebayo there. And Kyle Lowry hasn't been a high usage guy this year. So I don't really think he's stepping into a ton of usage. So I haven't projected okay, but I think it's about a fair salary on him.
Okay. Well, that was kind of the first guy for me that it just didn't really track for me. It's around a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. And, as you said, low 30s minutes, but that's a little bit more secure than other guys that are sitting in this range. And I feel a little bit more inclined to go to him than Aaron Holiday, in that same Suns spot. He's $100 more there at 4,400. He's not really somebody I'm landing on. There's really nobody else then that sits at low 4K that I would kind of be trying to make a thing here. So it's pretty much Gabe Vincent is the only other piece around that range that I would go off of Cam Payne for.
Yep, fair enough. And I don't have really a direct pivot who I'm like, oh, this is the guy. Mm-hmm. I'm getting to some Keon Johnson more than the field. He's somewhat popular today, project for 18% ownership. I am overweight to that number just because so many of these slates, especially this time of year, they wind up being stars and scrub slates for me. Yep. There's a lot of guys that I like paying up for today. Jokic, Giannis, Harden. We'll talk about him later. One of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. So as a result, I'm looking for value I could find beyond campaign. One of the guys I'm landing on is Keon Johnson because that Portland Trailblazers team is terrible. And Keon Johnson is going to have to play a significant role for them. He started last game. He played 26 minutes and the game was decided by 32 points. We could be looking at mid-30s minutes in a competitive game for Keon Johnson at his salary. That's appealing to me. He also enables me to spend up for a lot of studs on the slate. Is he somebody you're getting to as a value option?
Yeah, he's a guy that I really liked out of Tennessee that the Clippers had drafted. Obviously, they found him to be a pretty movable piece, which is just fine. But he had never really played over 17 minutes in an NBA game until that 26-minute outing. He only went 2 for 10. But with young rookies, with guys who get their first crack really at an NBA rotation here, so long as he's starting here going forward, I expect for him to play better than what we saw in that last outing. And at 3,100, it is really hard to imagine that he goes out and burns you in any spot. Now, if he can go out and win you something, it's a completely different question. But 3,100 mitigates a lot of the risk that I would have for something like that. If he ended up going 4 for 10 with a 3 in that spot and puts up 17 or 18 fantasy points in 26 minutes, people would be targeting him a lot more than even the 18.6%. So he's a guy that I'm north of that 18.6% number as well. Somebody that I think just kind of makes it easy to access some of these top tier guys, the Jokic's, the Giannis's that we want to be getting to today.
All right, so let's hit on some of the recent news now. First, starting with Darius Garland. He is going to be active today. It's kind of insignificant news because he went through shoot around earlier. So it kind of led me to think he was going to play. It takes Brandon Goodwin out of consideration, but at the same time too, Garland, who hasn't played much over the last month dealing with back soreness, I kind of think he plays a healthy amount of minutes, but not his full allotment of minutes. So I think we're looking at around 30 minutes from Darius Garland. It just kind of makes everything from the Cavs look a little bit unappealing. Do you have any different opinion than that?
No, shout out to our sponsor here, PrizePicks. I've really enjoyed playing over there quite a bit. And one of the things that was sticking out to me was hitting some of the unders on some of these point props, assuming that you could get Garland in there. I thought that they were maybe a little bit heavy as it was. Sure, he can go out and create and do some different things here in this spot, but that takes some usage away in a way that Brandon Goodwin just wasn't going to. And so I was shorting some of those numbers. They were sitting 18.5 for Jared Allen, 19.5 there. For Evan Mobley. These were just a little bit too high for me. So if you can still access those, I haven't pulled up. I'm going to pull up PrizePicks here again as we get into that segment here in the half hour. But I think that kind of it's just a very intriguing spot to be shorting some of these guys. And if you head to Odd Shopper as well, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, rebound props that are just too high, especially when you get Darius Garland, a guy who comes in and can do a little bit of everything for this Cleveland team. I mean, he has been a phenomenal piece for them all season long, and nobody would really doubt that, but he's going to affect everybody across the board. I think all of those props are just a little too heavy on the positive side there. So I like shorting rebounds for Allen and Mobley, and Odd Shopper agrees 39% ROI for Jared Allen in that department.
Yeah, I'll pull up some of the numbers right here. When Garland is off the court, what has that done to some of the... Actually hasn't changed him at all. So make it that way you will. But yeah, I mean, Mobley has seen the exact same rebound rate with Garland off the court, and Mobley's rebound rate is actually lower with Garland off the court.
But there were a lot of those times where you had Lauri Markkanen off the floor too. Yeah. I mean, you have like a month and a half where that was just the case. And I don't think we have enough sample where, Lauri Markkanen being back is a piece that just kind of hurts everybody across the board as well. I think that that's kind of really what Odd Shopper was recognizing early on was the insertion of him there. And then you get Darius Garland along. There's not a gigantic sample size that exists with all of them alongside each other. So I do expect Jared Allen and Evan Mobley to be two guys who do not benefit from getting Darius Garland in there. And now we start accumulating more sample size with Markkanen.
Yeah. As for DFS, I mean, there's just nothing I really think is of interest from Cleveland here. Is there anything that you're getting? Any kind, like I have some exposure to front court guys, but I don't have more than 10% of any player on Cleveland now.
I was getting to some Mobley on DraftKings where he was 7,200 a little bit. They had identical 7,200 numbers on FanDuel. That is being Mobley and Allen. And I couldn't really differentiate between the two. They were projected about the exact same. I think it's just a pick 'em spot where maybe you still get to a little bit of exposure, but it's 17 and 15%. That's too much for me here on this slate. I think with the existence of Lyles, with the existence of some other guys, there are just better, cheaper plays that we can get to on this slate. I'm less inclined to be going their direction now.
All right, let's head on over to the other piece of news. And it's another one that I don't think is going to matter all that much. Kevin Porter Jr. in, Dennis Schroeder out. This is a brutal matchup for the Houston Rockets against the Utah Jazz. I think there's a couple extra minutes to go to Garrison Matthews here. So I think if you needed to play one player from Houston, Garrison Matthews is kind of a low priority GPP play, like break in case of emergency. If you absolutely need to save salary, it's okay to go to Garrison Matthews. But there's nothing else I really want to play here. A lot of it's just because of that matchup against the Utah Jazz. Is there anybody you think I'm missing out here by not rostering from Utah or from Houston? And is Matthews somebody you're going to get to at all?
Yeah, it was a bummer Sunday on the deeper dive. I brought up Garrison Matthews as kind of an unexpected guy that could benefit, and he came out and smashed in his first rotation, turned his ankle, and then came back out a little bit later. Still got up to 26 minutes now the last two games against the Clippers. This is not nearly as good of a spot, but at 3,400, you could do worse than trying to take some darts there. He's gone 4 for 8, 2 for 7 from 3 here. He's really adding nothing, and I do mean nothing in terms of counting stats, averaging 3 rebounds and just 1 assist per game here. Can get some steals here and there and spike a little bit of an upside. At 3,400, you're just kind of hoping that at the bottom end, he can put up mid-20s, upper 20s, and that can kind of work out optimally. Nobody's going to really be a priority for me here. I think you can probably take some shots there if you really wanted to. I think a guy like Jalen Green, as awful as he has been this entire season, there's at least an opportunity here, I think, offensively, but he's now priced up around 5,500 here. It's just not a very intriguing spot to be getting to anybody whatsoever from Houston.
Yeah. Once again, Garrison Matthews is somebody who I'm going to have projected for around 20 fantasy points now at his salary, at least on DraftKings. FanDuel, I don't really think we have to consider him. DK, if he's in like 5 to 10% of my lineups, I'm cool with that. Super chat here from Michael McKinney, top 3 pay-up options on FanDuel. So for me, that is Harden, Jokic, and Giannis.
I guess ordering them is probably good. Harden having small forward eligibility is kind of a big deal. I think that can kind of really help a shooting guard, small forward for FanDuel. So I'm going to actually probably go at their current ownership. James Harden 1, Giannis 2, Jokic 3 for me.
Next super chat here is from Thomas Kingston. Phoenix guards, Peyton, Shamet, or Holiday. Choose one. Of those guys, the answer is Holiday for me, but it's hard to consider any of them high priority plays.
Exact same answer.
Next super chat from Eckerd40. McCollum and Hayes or Donovan, I assume that means Mitchell, and Crowder for a DK GPP single entry. So McCollum and Jackson Hayes, your guy, or Donovan Mitchell and Jay Crowder?
I mean, it's obviously the first one, especially because you knew McCollum. Jackson Hayes is kind of my boy. I love this guy. I love him in the starting rotation. McCollum, can we also just talk about how good he's been in a Pelicans uniform so far? Not a trade that was super high. You wanted to see McCollum on a Philadelphia 76ers team. And obviously, they made the right move for them. There's no question. You wanted to see him on some kind of a contender, but this has worked out really, really nicely so far for them. The blowout against the Lakers mitigated what would have been a massive fantasy point output from CJ McCollum. He's worth that 9K on DraftKings, which is a strange thing to say out loud. So I'm definitely kind of going more towards CJ McCollum for DK for sure. So McCollum Hayes, that's a pretty easy one for me.
It's pretty crazy because just look at how bad that Portland Trailblazers roster is. And you would have assumed him going to New Orleans, that has to be decreased usage, decreased production for CJ McCollum. Hasn't been the case. He's been really, really good with them. So whatever it is, just the fit, the way he's meshed there, it's been perfect for him both for real life and for fantasy perspective. So
yeah, and you have like a Lillard and Simons combination where they play a lot of the same way, ball in hand, threes, taking away a little bit of that usage. He's creating. He's for the first time really playing that true point guard role, which we've seen in the playoffs from him when Lillard was hurt at times and he had to be the alpha. But it is really fun to watch him on a team running point.
Next super chat here from Ade Balagun is asking, who is the best overall FanDuel cash center?
mean, there should be enough value where I think you should be able to play Jokic, and it shouldn't be that difficult. 11K Jokic, I don't know how you don't land there. I think that just kind of quick and easy would become the guy. If you needed to save 200, I'd be okay if you landed on Embiid there, but you have the ability to play Eubanks power forward and Mobley if you wanted to power forward. For me, it should be Jokic, and I don't think it should be that cost prohibitive.
Yeah, it's so there's two potential options for me. It's either Drew Eubanks or Nikola Jokic, but you could play Eubanks at power forward, which I think is probably the way to go here for this slate. So you throw in, I mean, I was gonna start just listing off who I think the optimal cash game plays are, and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna build an entire lineup here pretty quickly. But yeah, Jokic at center and then at power forward. I think Trey Lyles and Drew Eubanks are pretty clearly the optimal guys to go there, and then start filling in some other guys at other positions.
I just did it for fun. And let me just say the 2v2 that you're probably going to run into for cash on FanDuel today, have fun with that. I'll let other people, brave souls, enjoy that one.
Next super chat from our guy, Bill W. SGA and Mitchell/Fox or Harden and Brogdon on DK. So he's asking SGA and then the other piece either being Mitchell or Fox and then or Harden and Brogdon. I love Harden today. So Harden and Brogdon for me.
Hey, look at you. Because I think it was the show that we did together where I was just like, I'm playing a ton of Harden, and I think that this is going to be a good fit for him. I love that you're on it with me as well. DK, I know it seems strange. He's at 11-2, but we're talking about a guy that is going to be a walking double-double, triple-double here for this basketball team. 12 and 16 assists. Get used to seeing stuff like that. When he's creating for Joel Embiid, he's got Tobias Harris on a wing. He's going to be a really good fit for Philadelphia. Yeah, it's not a great pace spot, but it's 6% rostership for James Harden. You give me him at 6%, I'm going to take it every time well over the field.
I don't understand his ownership today.
It's the weirdest thing ever.
He has been so the only, to me, the real risk here is just it's, you know, a pace down spot against the Knicks, potential blowout risk. But the blowout risk, like, how do we even weigh it? Because of half the games have blowout risk today. It's a lot of good teams playing shit teams today. So the Suns, the Suns are favored by like a dozen points over Portland. Denver's favored by 13.5 points over OKC. We've got Philly favored by 10.5 over the Knicks. Utah by 12.5 over Houston. I can't write these games off due to blowout risk because then we're taking all of the stars out of play. So while it is somewhat of a concern for me, it's a concern for all the other top end guys also. Harden has been really good so far with Philadelphia and seems to mesh really well with Joel Embiid. So his first game with the team, it wasn't the best fantasy game in the world, but it was a blowout and he easily could have had a bigger game had that game been more competitive. His second game with Philadelphia against this same Knicks team, he dropped 80 DraftKings points. And now we're seeing him in this, like, nobody's playing him. At least per our ownership projections right now. Yep. He's projected for 5% on DK, and he's projected for 14% on FanDuel at a really depressed price point.
And the positional eligibility that he has. Being able to play him shooting guard, small forward is huge.
So I'm going to just go through my personal projections. I have Jokic is the number one overall projected player on slate. Yes. Nobody's going to disagree with that. It's about reasonable. Then I have Giannis 4 fantasy points below Jokic. And then I only have Harden 4 fantasy points below Giannis. I have Harden projected for slightly more than Embiid. I don't think that's that crazy considering what we've seen Harden's role. And another thing too is Harden was just on the Nets playing with Kyrie Irving, playing with Kevin Durant. He has a bigger role on the Philadelphia 76ers than he did in Brooklyn. Whereas Joel Embiid now, he's taking a little bit of a hit in his role because he just has another star to play with, and it's just been him as the only guy taking up usage. So in the last couple of games, Joel Embiid, he still had sizable usage rates, 36 and 39%. But the month leading up to James Harden not being there, like the 2 months before, Embiid was a 40+% usage guy. So we're seeing a little bit less usage go to Embiid, whereas Harden just is the guy who's going to constantly have the ball in his hands here. And he's only picking up 5% ownership on DraftKings. So in terms of the high end plays, we have a lot of value on the slate now. We've got guys like, you know, Keon Johnson mentioned before. We've got Campaign. A lot of the field is going to be rostering them to get different on paying up for Harden in a lot of lineups.
I'm with you. I love that we're on board with this one this time around for sure. Because I just thought it was a party wanted to be early too. I'm very bummed out that he put up 80 in a game that was basically a showdown slate because it's not like you could really benefit from anything there in rostering James Harden, but I'm going to keep doing it. And, maybe it doesn't work out here today, but I just think it's like the legitimate perfect fit for this team. I think that it made both teams better here in the long run. I'm excited to see Brooklyn if they can get up to full strength for what that core could be here as well. But James Harden is just a no-brainer for me to be over the field when he sees 6%. And I know somebody said that he's not 6%. I don't think he should be, and maybe we're going to get to lock and it'll be 9-10%, but that's still something I want to be on top of. So I have no concerns in just rostering a ton of a guy with a 50% assist rate here through 2 games, sub 25% usage. I mean, there is a massive 35 and 15 game just waiting in the wings, and you want to be there for it.
Yeah. And by the way, our ownership projections are free today. It's, ownership. I couldn't project ownership well. It's one of the more difficult things to do, but our ownership projections tend to be pretty accurate. If you guys want to go over to awesemo.com and check out the free ownership projections, they're right there to check out. Miami Mike 305. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Miami Mike. You're
worst bit on the show.
It's not the worst bit. We have way worse bits than this. It's not the worst.
Hello, Tyler. How's that vape pen doing? You've been living your pathetic life in Waco, Texas. You're a psychopath, and I love you.
There it is. It's Miami.
By the way, the other thing about Tyler being a psychopath, he like doesn't believe in turning lights on. He just only lives in the dark. Yeah, he does. He's like, oh no, it's no good for the electricity bill. Yeah, live in the darkness and save yourself $3 a month. Super chat from Jake Lindland. How many minutes do Kevin Love and Malcolm Brogdon play today? Kevin Love's minutes are so difficult to project.
How about between 17 and 26 in some capacity, which for a guy who averages a lot of fantasy points per minute is a very frustrating thing to try to play that game. And, it's interesting because you kind of needed Kevin Love here last slate. And now we're looking at a really strange, because again, that's kind of the Lauri Markkanen effect where that is going to matter. But if they're going to take Dean Wade out and start just giving Lauri Markkanen some of those blank minutes, I mean, Kevin Love's minutes are going to be volatile. I think FanDuel did us a favor. They priced him up to 5,500, where I don't really have to entertain it because, assuming he gets to 25 minutes there, that projection becomes something with 1.2 fantasy points per minute to be, just north of 30. But it is extremely frustrating. There's too many other good spots to be going to a power forward. I don't think we need to even entertain Kevin Love today, thankfully.
So for me, just to answer the question directly, I gave Kevin Love 20 minutes. I gave Brogdon 32. So on the Kevin Love side, I mean, this dude's minutes, it's impossible to project. And we now also have Darius Garland coming back in the picture. While they don't play the same position, it's just somebody else to eat up minutes. It's less opportunity for the Cavs to ultimately go with bigger lineups. And the minutes for Love have just been all over the place. He played 26 last game, but here is his minutes workload from the games before that. 26, 14, 16, 26, 17. So 2 random games with 26 minutes and then a bunch of games where he's sub 18 minutes. I gave him 20. I don't know exactly what to make of his minutes, but I'm also not really playing him today. As for Malcolm Brogdon, he missed last game with the Achilles soreness, but the 2 games before that, he played right around 30 in both of them. One of those games was a blowout, and he could have played more. So that's why I land on 32 minutes for Brogdon. Does that all seem about reasonable for you? It's hard to put.
Yeah, 34 is like the high end. So I put him for 33 and a half, as that's nifty and fun to do. We have him right around 33 here at Awesemo today. I do think when you look at that game against Boston, it did get wonky there, and you didn't see that 33 that is in the bag. I think you could have played 4 or 5 minutes for a last rotation if that game had been closer. So that kind of just lands me on 33 here, and I feel pretty comfortable about it. I mean, this is just a good game environment. These are 2 terrible, no good, very bad, awful teams. So pretty excited to be rostering a guy who I think is legitimately good at basketball. And if he's going to be right here with this Achilles issue, we are going to be looking at some really large fantasy output games. Plus, Tyrese Halliburton is a guy that you're not going to see 30% usage from going forward here. And that's what you saw last game out here in the absence of Malcolm Brogdon. You put him back in there, and Halliburton's going to play more of that facilitator role. The usage went down to 18, 14% in those 2 games, the 2 games previous, one of those being with Brogdon. So I'm looking at Brogdon as a guy sub 10%. I know they brought it up on the previous show, but I'm bringing it up now. He's a guy you want to be over the field on.
Got a question here from Blitz. Would you guys roster Donovan Mitchell or CJ McCollum more? As weird as it sounds, because based on historical fantasy production, I prefer McCollum tonight. How about you?
I'm preferring McCollum, and it's just weird to say that. It's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, so we're on the same page there. Next super chat from, got more things. Okay, here we go. CS, Bridges, Suns, DK. Yay or nay tonight? I like that you clarified which Bridges, because there also would have been some confusion. Let's see. Mikal Bridges. I have him. Where's his most recent ownership number? So he's projected for 30% ownership over on FanDuel. I know you asked about DraftKings though. DK, I'm almost dead even with the field. He's projected for 15% ownership. That is right where I'm at with Bridges as well. So he's 6K on DK. I think he's about appropriately owned. I'm right around the field on him. Do you have any hot takes on Mikal Bridges? I think he's fine as a mid-range play, but it's just a neutral option for me. Is Eric frozen or am I frozen right now? All right. I could see Tyler. It's usually me who freezes. So who cares what Eric's opinion is on Mikal Bridges? I've laid down the law. Mikal Bridges, we're going even to the field. That is the answer for this question. I'm going to use this just to transition over to the forward position because I think we've kind of already exhausted all the guards to talk about. I'm looking through my exposures now. There's nobody at the guard position that I have a good amount of exposure to that we haven't already talked about. So the most important plays for me at guard today, James Harden, Keon Johnson as a pay down option, then of course campaign, but everybody's going to kind of be on campaign. So no. Oh, now Eric is totally gone. Did you boot him, Tyler? No, he just left of his own accord. What if we never see Eric again? This is the way he goes. He got so upset that I said the jigsaw bit was terrible that he left forever. Is that what happened? I think that might have been what happened here. All right, so Eric is back in the mix. Now, Eric, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
There he is. He's back. I thought
you
got
going to have my iPad running for this one. We're going to turn the TV off. We're going to turn the lights down low. We're going to just bring this in.
Yeah, turn the lights off. Tyler says that makes a big difference. I thought you just got upset that I didn't like the jigsaw bit and you decided to quit and left, but you're back now. We're moving over to the forward position now, Eric. And did you have any loose ends to tie up at the guard? I feel like we kind of covered everything that was worth noting for me.
We hit the major spots. I mean, we're both going up for James Harden. I'm glad that we're both kind of making that conscious decision. Love playing CJ McCollum in this new circumstance. I think that kind of needed to be talked about. I'm higher on Gabe Vincent than you are. I think that's fine. Brogdon is a guy to be over 7.5%. I think he's underprojected at other places across the industry, and that really feels good. This is an 8-game slate. There's going to be a lot of things a lot of plays that can kind of fall through the cracks, though. But we really kind of hit on the broad strokes.
All right, let's hit on the forwards now. And I think we should start by talking about Trey Lyles. He's going to be the chalk at the forward position. He was an excellent late swap option last time the Kings played, ended up getting over 30 minutes in a start. I'm going to start by asking you this. How confident are you that Trey Lyles starts again today?
We just got confirmation while I was rebooting my computer and everything.
There we go.
Trey Lyles will remain in the starting lineup. So.
All right.
I don't have chat. This is going to be the most productive show by me of all time. Now that chat is goodbye. Also, you can say about whatever you want about me. I'll go back and watch it probably, but you can say whatever you want about me for the next hour. What do we have? 52 minutes here on this show. And I'm not going to see it because I'm just going straight to the laptop back and forth with that. So enjoy. It's a free for all. This is like The Purge. It's like the movie The Purge where you can just say whatever you want for an hour.
Speaking of horror movies, Miami Mike has left a super chat. Hello, Eric. Glad you're back.
Oh, I hate everybody in this chat today. Tyler's the worst. Tyler, cringe. Cringe Quist is back.
There we go. At least.
Get off the stage.
Oh, that was excellent. There we go. That's my favorite way that bit has ever ended. So yeah, I guess we don't have to worry about Trey Lyles, whether he starts, doesn't start, confirmed in the starting lineup, of course, would happen as I'm moving over to the forwards there. Yeah, Trey Lyles starting, no issue with him being a chalk play now whatsoever. I had some reservations about whether he'd be starting or not earlier. but he's starting now. So now that we have that news, how do you view him relative to the 40% projected ownership on DK and over on FanDuel right now? Trey Lyles is projected for 25% ownership at 3,600, only power forward eligible there, but chalk on both spots. Do you think it's warranted?
Oh yeah. This was a no-brainer, and it was a no-brainer the other night. Again, I had to pull my car over to the side of the road to adjust lineups on my hotspot, which is probably better internet than I have right now. That's ironic as it is, in the middle of the desert. But Trey Lyles, you just need to play a lot of him. 3,600 on FanDuel, starting lineup. He's a fantasy point per minute guy with Detroit here on the season. We saw exactly basically a fantasy point per minute in his first start here, 21.7% usage, 10 for 14. I don't expect that kind of efficiency, but this is the kind of stuff Trey Lyles does. If he gets minutes, he's going to produce.
Yep. Starting. Hard for him to not get the minutes now. Some of the other popular plays at the forward position, Cam Johnson and Alexei Pokusevski. I know you rostered some Poku this year. Where do you stand on the other popular forward plays in Pokusevski and Johnson?
Cuckoo for Poku Puffs. That was the bit I came up with just now. That was the weirdest face you've ever made to something I've ever said in my entire life.
Tyler, I was just confused, and that was just my reaction to whatever it was. It was very upsetting.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Weird stuff happens when you host. That's what we've really learned. Is I was very professional and focused, and then everything goes off the rails with one bit. But 4,100. You got to have some interest there. He's really popular. I think, though, just because it's just so hard to not try to take some shots on a number of these guys. Now, I don't want to go out of hand. I mean, now that we have Trey Lyles, it becomes much more just prioritize Trey Lyles. But I expect Poku's his ownership to kind of get cut down a little bit as a result of that for Lyles' existence on the slate, just making sure that he was officially starting here. So I'm going to be rostering a little bit. I don't know if I want to be getting well over 23, 25% or anything, but no doubt about it. A piece of my lineups in 150.
Yeah, and cash games absolutely must play him. As I started to build before on FanDuel, based on that question, the optimal cash build, it comes together pretty quickly. But Trey Lyles is included in that for power forward on FanDuel. So we've talked about Cam Johnson, Pokusevski, Trey Lyles here. Who are the other forwards that are going to be important pieces for you on this slate?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun back and forth. I mean, we took off Evan Mobley and Jared Allen for me, even over on FanDuel. I'm playing primarily over on there. I'm playing a little bit on both here. But forward for me, getting up to Giannis is something that I think just always makes sense. 12-2 on DraftKings. It is really kind of a reach there, but I'm still going to get over 10% of him because it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, and over the last couple of years has been the best fantasy producer on the planet. 11-3 on FanDuel, what in the world? 11-3 there just makes all the sense in the world to get to a lot of the positionality, how it works, being able to play him and James Harden at a small forward. There's some cheaper guards that we want to be taking shots on, not just Cameron Payne, but I like Gabe Vincent. I think across the board, $13 on Yahoo, 4,200 FanDuel, 4K or 4,200 on DK, 42 FanDuel. Just makes all the sense in the world to be rostering some of him on the cheap end as well, taking some less shots, should I say, than you would have to on Cameron Johnson, small forward only over on FanDuel, 5,400. Probably not going to go too nuts with that now because I'm going to get to just more Harden and Giannis there at that spot, but shouldn't really surprise anybody. The guy that's tough for me now, Jimmy Butler is 8,400. That price keeps dropping because Bam Adebayo is just wrecking lately for the Miami Heat. And I mean, 8,400, he has got some crazy ownership at 32%. I'm nervous about it, but I'm a little bit shorter on him than what we currently are projecting him for. I'm short of that 32% number. I'm down around 12 right now in my last build of 150. That is an uncomfortable feeling. What are you doing with Jimmy Butler today?
Yeah, so he is a massively different looking player on FanDuel and DK. DK, he's 9,200. He's projected for 10% ownership. Like you mentioned, FanDuel is going to be much more popular. 32% owned, 8,400. Really, really minimal price point. Here's something that I think should be considered here. Due to the gravity of the matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks, two of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, I think Jimmy Butler probably plays a couple extra minutes in this spot. Mm-hmm. So I don't relative to the field, it's not that much different. I still come in underweight in the FanDuel build I have right now. I have him in 27% of lineups, which is a little bit underweight to the 32% number, but nothing crazy. So if you're telling me I have to be over or underweight to that number, which do I choose? It would be the under. but I think you should be playing Jimmy Butler in cash games, and I don't have like a massive issue with him in tournaments.
All right. And then shout out to my boy Jackson Hayes. Not a guy that projects out super well here in the projections, but if you go to the boom bust tool, the number one leveraged play, and that seems to be what he is just about every slate. 24% boom percentage. Sure, his bust percentage isn't exactly ideal there on DraftKings either, but 12.1% optimal appearance rate. I feel pretty confident that him and CJ McCollum, they are literally 1-2 in the boom bust tool. Those were guys that I already liked a lot, and just getting the confirmation there from the best tool in the industry to help kind of gauge where the field is relative to where you are. I think that just becomes another guy in Jackson Hayes. I just want to get to a lot of today.
Yeah. By the way, Greg Smith, he said that he has a super chat that we missed. Just at me in the YouTube chat and tell me what it is, and I'll answer it, because got some super chats to line up and answer right now. I'm scrolling back. I don't see it anywhere. Tyler, if you see it, could you DM it to me in Slack? If not, I will just throw it in the YouTube chat at me and I'll see it. All right. The questions we have to answer here, there's a lot of them. Scrolling through, making sure I don't miss any here. First, from Jeff Williams: Harden and Fox or SGA Butler for DK cash? I don't know. Either of those combinations are really high priorities for a cash game. But I guess for cash, I would lean towards SGA Butler. I don't think either of those combos are great for cash. What do you say?
Yeah, I hate doing this. It's 14 minutes before lock. Blow it all up. Let's start over.
Hey, it's enough time to do so.
Yeah.
Connor Bishop.
Not a single one of those guys is a guy I would play in cash on DK today.
Yeah. So I like Harden a lot, but that's more as a tournament option.
Correct.
If he's not going to be popular, you don't want to be playing him in cash games. Here's who you want to pay up for in cash games on DK today. Jokic, for sure. And then if you have the space to pay up for a second guy, then it could be SGA, potentially Giannis. But the number one guy to prioritize as a pay up option to me in cash games is still going to be Jokic.
Yep.
Next super chat, Giannis and Keon Johnson or Harden and Pokashevsky?
I mean, Poco's going to be really popular. I'm starting to kind of piece together a little bit more than I would want to. What was the first combination of that?
The first one was Giannis and Keon Johnson or Harden and Pokashevsky.
I mean, I like both sides of it. I'm going to have exposure to all of those guys. I would slightly prefer the Giannis side of that.
Okay. For me, that is going to be Harden and Pokashevsky. I just really like Harden today.
Yeah, I like Harden the most out of everybody relative to their ownership period that exists on pretty much everywhere. So maybe I'll go to the Harden side there too. It's a very, very close one. And as I said, I have exposure to all of those guys.
All right. Next super chat here. This is from R. Cathelza. Important on the slate besides Booker. He is late. So other important news. Well, Garland is back. Trey Lyles is starting. Malcolm Brogdon is starting. In terms of guys that we're still waiting for, I think we've got pretty much everything. Zeke Naji is questionable. Who really cares about that?
Yeah. And Austin Rivers is questionable too. So maybe there's like a late slate potential something, but I don't see it for the main slate.
Other than Booker, there isn't that much super significant news on the slate. You know, Booker was out, LeVert's out. He's been out for a while.
I mean, if we had gotten Garland or Anthony out, that would have been fun.
I have some exposure to Garrison Matthews just because Eric Gordon and Dennis Schroeder are both out, but it's hard to call that really massive news. For OKC, also, this is not new news, but Mike Muscala, Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, Ty Jerome, Josh Giddey are all out for OKC. That's really the only reason anybody's considering paying for SGA at $10,000. Have I missed anything? I think that kind of encompasses all of it. Campaign is back and is a really important chalk play, but that kind of gets looped in with the Booker stuff.
Yep. All of it is covered. So there you go. That is the 60-second version.
The next question from Sweet Lou at Isle Equity. Martin or Strus for Miami? Neither is the answer. If I had to take a shot, I think Strus has been playing more minutes. What did Caleb Martin end up getting up to last game? I was kind of tracking some of that, and it felt like, you played 25 minutes here the last two. It's fine, but Max Strus, I think, could actually
have an upside between the two, but the correct answer is don't play either.
Yeah, there's no need to, unless this is a question relative to you playing, a single game slate or something. Then I would lean towards Martin if that's the reason you're asking, but otherwise neither of them for a full slate question. Next super chat, Benny from the Bronx, Harden and Mann or Mitchell and CJ on FanDuel, big money single entry contest. Well, I don't really like Terrence Mann for today. I really do like Harden, but I'd rather get the McCollum and Mitchell combination than Harden and Mann just because I'm not playing Mann today.
Terrence Mann is not on the slate. I think it's
Trey Mann.
Trey Mann. Yeah. No, that's okay. I just was double checking as I was going through Trey Mann. I don't really like Trey Mann. We love Harden. We've kind of officially said that. We love CJ McCollum as well, but just by the implication of anything that would have Trey Mann in it, I don't want.
So it has to be Trey Mann. Let's see. Are we all caught up on super chats now? Did we find Greg Smith's question? Oh, here it is. Greg Smith. He had $67 left on a Yahoo lineup with center and utility left. He has Harden. Should he go Embiid and Jokic at center and then $13 or lower for utility? So Jokic over Embiid for me, pretty clearly. I have Jokic projected quite a bit higher. So then $13 or lower. If you have Payne, Jackson Hayes, Drew Eubanks are all really strong options. My first couple choices would be Payne and Eubanks, or it would be Payne and Hayes. But if you don't have them, then go to Eubanks. And I know you have the flexibility for Eubanks because you already said your center position is going to be either Jokic or Embiid. So that would mean Eubanks is available there. So 3 choices: Payne 1, Jackson Hayes 2, Eubanks 3. If neither of those 2 are available. Do you agree with all that?
Yeah, 100% agreed. Yeah.
And we are all caught up on the super chats now. Guys, I haven't asked for likes or subs yet. Please do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Also, Eric and I are going to be sticking around as per usual 30 minutes after locker room talking about PrizePicks tonight. If you guys have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, you could do it using the promo code Awesemo. Get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and get yourself 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you sign up for the first time using the promo code Awesemo. Any other loose ends for you to tie up at forward? For me, we've kind of hit all the guys I have a decent amount of exposure to.
Again, and we're on a lot of the same pages today, which is fun. Jackson Hayes, I will say, Josh Hart is kind of a talking point for the FanDuel slate. You've got him, Simons, Eubanks, where you can play him at power forward. There's a lot of different builds that you're landing on there because even at a tough spot against Phoenix, Portland, all those prices are just kind of broken over on FanDuel, and so that's kind of what I find interesting is I kind of want to give a bump up to the likes of Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges on FanDuel compared to what I have on DK. 1, because their prices are a little bit cheaper there. 2, because I want to get to more of these Portland pieces. It just makes sense that just kind of embrace the entire late night hammer. If any news breaks throughout the entire evening, you've got more swappability. It just kind of feels like a spot by playing multiple sites, by having exposure, not just in the prop market with PrizePicks, but over on DraftKings and FanDuel and Yahoo, and playing all these different sites. You have an ability to get different builds. I think FanDuel is kind of the spot where, I was saying I was going back and forth on what I wanted to do with Bridges and Johnson. I'm actually going to give them a little boost up there and short them a little bit more on DraftKings. So I kind of wanted to touch on that simply because of how good that Portland pricing is.
All right. So forwards, by the way, do you have your lineups uploaded?
Yeah, I got them up. It's crazy when you're not hosting how much easier it is.
There we go. All right. I just have my lineups uploaded as well. So let's jump on over to the center position. There's only 2 guys that I have a lot of exposure to at center. I think there's 2 players who are center specific. Obviously, there's going to be other guys on DK that have center eligibility, but also have other positionality that we've already talked about. Like Giannis, Trey Lyles. Those are both really strong plays. As for other guys, Jokic, Ayton. I love both of them, and I just don't have that many spots at center to roster other guys. Where do you stand on Jokic and Ayton? Because at least earlier when we were talking about it, you seemed a little lighter on Ayton than I am. He's one of my favorite plays today.
I'm a little bit under the field on 25%, 6,800. DeAndre Ayton benefits a lot from the ability for Chris Paul to create, for Devin Booker to be kind of the guy. Yes, you bring up a great point where that usage could maybe spike till around 30%. And if he's effective there, you could be running into a lot of trouble. Like I could be, because he's 6,800 and a guy that could just blow this slate up. But I think he might be even a little bit more popular. Yeah, he's around a 1.17 fantasy point per minute guy. But you have JaVale McGee. I think he kind of keeps his exact rotation. I don't think there's going to be any need for him to play. He's not going to play 38 minutes or anything crazy like that. It's not like he's going to benefit and get these more minutes. And I don't know if the minutes just necessarily become a lot more. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. I haven't seen enough without Booker and without Chris Paul to just kind of assume that DeAndre Ayton is going to be, some guy that really wants to take over this offense. So I have slight concerns that he might be the main guy who offensively just needs somebody to help him out a little bit to create better looks, to create these opportunities. And I'm not just saying I don't want to play him. I just think that I have more reservations than you do about his role now.
Yeah, I'm just kind of leaning, like I said, on the sample size of the time that he spent on the court without Booker and without Paul over the last 2 years. He's scoring over 50 fantasy points per 36 minutes. And for the same reason also, just to tie into a sports betting angle here, depending where you look, I'm not sure what the odds are now, but there were some 17.5, 18.5 point over-unders for points on DeAndre Ayton before we started. I haven't projected for mid-20s real-life points. That's one of my favorite bets on the slate. So if that's available, something that I like hitting on. As for center plays for you, actually, we have a bunch of super chats here that I should answer before I ask you that. So super chats here. First from Charles Moran. FanDuel GPP needs a point guard and a shooting guard for 10,400, excluding Payne, who he already has in.
I just pulled this up because I connected this to my phone, so it avoided the internet. Look at me thinking about stuff. Let me find this one. FanDuel point guard and shooting guard for 10,400, excluding Payne, who I already have. Okay. So we need 5,200. I mean, I like Gabe Vincent, and I know he falls underneath that threshold. I know Greg isn't as keen for it. But what is Vincent plus Simons? It's got to be pretty close to around 10.4. Gabe Vincent 4K, that'd be 300 over. So I need to find something a little cheaper. How about Brogdon and Gabe Vincent? That's 10.3 for you. That was a Greg answer by me where I take the time to go through the process. Yes.
That'll work. Well, look at Tyler Zander really in the dark now. Next super chat, K2 Superman. If Payne needs to be late swapped with who? So what's the situation where Payne needs to be late swapped where he isn't starting? Because if he isn't starting, then just whoever starts in his place.
Yeah, and it should be pretty easy because, I mean, Aaron Holiday is going to be the guy that I would assume starts. If it's Elf Payton, just blow up everything and whatever. But you're gonna have some other Suns to be getting to here on this slate. So I'm not overly concerned. But Aaron Holiday is legitimately 100 more. If you were that concerned about it, make 49,900 your max cap on Fantasy Cruncher and move on with your day.
Next super chat, Justin Alberto, Giannis and Shamet, or SGA and Bridges, or do you prefer Cam Johnson? That would be SGA and Bridges for me.
SGA and Bridges as well.
I just can't get behind Shamet. I know they're missing Booker, but who cares?
I can't do it. I can't
watch him go shoot like 6 of 6 from 3. His only path to success on this slate, but not somebody getting exposure to.
Don't even say shit like that. Don't even do it. Don't even.
Justin Bruce already playing Payne and some chalky plays, trying to decide between Pokashevsky and Şengün in a $5 single entry. Help me decide between the two. I prefer Pokashevsky to Şengün. Şengün's not somebody who's in my lineups today. How about you?
I get it if you ever want to take the Şengün dart, just because this Houston team is terrible and they're 14-point dogs to Utah. And there's a lot of paths where maybe Şengün gets that extra run. He was a guy that ended up being very serviceable in tournaments the other night. That's what happens in some of these blowout runs. So I would make a rule to legitimately get no other pieces of Houston or probably from Utah, even just to get to Şengün. But as Greg said, I'm just not going to be playing him today, but I understand what you're getting at because this is a guy that Rinpack has declared a 10K player in the right situation if he plays 30 plus minutes a night.
Mr. Moneybags asking Jokic and SGA or Embiid and Harden at DKGPP. Boy, you're really playing with no salary cap limits. Have you gone into NBA 2K and just turned off all of the restrictions here?
It's tiers. It's tiers contest or something.
It's a Jokic and SGA for me.
Yeah, Jokic and SGA.
I wouldn't want to play Embiid and Harden in the same lineup. And then JEW.
I don't mind
DK
it.
Single entry, Bamba or Hayes. I think that's Hayes for me. Let me check though.
I mean, I just love Hayes more than Bamba. As much as like Bamba's starting to just play minutes, but that floor can get yanked at any point, it seems like. So we're treading lightly. I think everybody's been running pretty good in the Mo Bamba department. I think on FanDuel, it makes some sense where, sub 5K, if you're going to play anybody that isn't those top tier guys, that would be it. But I really don't want to take that shot anywhere that much. Like he's sub 10% everywhere for me.
1 minute to go into lock. Don't go anywhere, though, guys. Eric and I are going to be sticking around for the next 30 minutes. We're talking about PrizePicks, going to go over some of the top prop plays over on OddsShopper, and anything breaking news happens, somebody unexpected gets ruled out. Yeah. Maybe we get that Suns starting lineup because that's something that we're still waiting on. That's going to be really important for our lineups today. We expect it's going to be campaign, but we don't know that for sure. So that's still information. It's a little bit up in the air, but that is definitely going to be something that shapes our lineups a lot. Is there anything else that you could think about that might break in these next 30 minutes that could impact our lineups?
Yeah, not really. I mean, there could be, as you said, the Suns starting lineup could be something that could be wonky. Houston, if you got Garrison Matthews starting, that would be really excellent just to secure that down. I don't know if I would want to play like a 30% Garrison Matthews. Right now, he's around 20% over on DK, which I think is appropriate on this slate where the value isn't outside of campaign and Trey Lyles, phenomenal. But he's at small forward only over on DK. I think he would make some sense if he's starting there. So I think paying attention to this Houston starting lineup, whatever that turns out to be in the absence of Eric Gordon.
All right. So now that we're at lock, our lineups are all uploaded. Before we start talking about OddsShopper and start talking about PrizePicks, and Eric, if you could pull up OddsShopper while I'm asking these questions, and I'm going to be pulling up PrizePicks. But here's something that I think we don't really have to have too much information in front of us while we get everything loaded. Who is most likely to just ruin your night tonight? Because I know who it is for me.
James Harden probably now. I mean, I have 45% of him on FanDuel, which is well over the field. I have 34% on DK. If he just puts up like a 40, like if he puts up 35 or 40, I'm losing out on so many other studs that I'm pretty sure they're going to be smashing here alongside of him. I just think James Harden has legitimate 70, 80 point upside here and just underappreciated. But Cameron Payne, I have 100% of right now. I'm going to get off of 100% over on DK. There's no way that's going to be what it finishes out at. But just kind of as we swap, you only had 2 games that locked here. Just with my process, I'm late swapping all the time, trying to figure out which pieces I really want to be identifying. And Houston might be where some of that exposure goes.
Yeah, so this is kind of twofold for me. The opportunity cost of playing a lot of Harden, I barely have any SGA today. And I think SGA just kind of been priced appropriately at this point, and he's still fairly popular. So we've got SGA. Let me refresh, see if we got any ownership updates right before lock here. I still have the most recent one in front of me, but SGA ended up projected for 15% ownership at 10K on DK. And over on FanDuel, SGA was projected for 22% ownership at 10,000. If I could play Harden for a somewhat similar price point to SGA for a fraction of the ownership, that is the route I'm going. So I hardly have any SGA. What did you do with him? Because to me, playing a lot of Harden, once again, it goes hand in hand with your answer. The opportunity cost was not getting to as much SGA. So I guess the thing that ruins me is just if SGA significantly outscores Harden.
Yeah. I'm not to 15%. I'm right now at 13% here on FanDuel. I'm not, or on DK, excuse me. That was where I was at there. I'm refreshing this on FanDuel. I got to 15% SGA. So I'm a little bit short on the field on both spots, but it's not like I'm full fading. He's not a guy that I don't know. I don't expect 60-60 back-to-back here once again. Yeah, he's definitely, in the absence of Josh Giddey, going to do a lot. The guy's an absolute stud, but against Denver, I think this is just a more competent basketball team than what we had in Sacramento and Indiana the last 2 games. So I'm just kind of investing in just what I see, a Denver defensive matchup on the road. I'm hoping that can kind of subdue him a little bit. I'm shorter on him, but not a full fade for me.
One more super chat coming in right here at the buzzer from Orion. FanDuel GPP, decide for me both Bridges or Cam Johnson on FanDuel. I have Bridges project for more fantasy points than Cam Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the question. They're identical tag. I think you can play a bunch. If you're playing one lineup and you're trying to decide which guy, I think Bridges is just a better play. He's more secure for the minutes. We know the kind of stock upside he can have. He's going to play upwards of 40 minutes with no Booker and no Paul on the floor. Cameron Johnson really kind of depends how he's going out and shooting the ball. We've seen 35 minutes in starts for him, 29 in that loss against the Pelicans, 31 against OKC in that blowout. So mid 30s is kind of where you're hoping you can get for him. But I think that the minutes can be more volatile there. Mikal Bridges is just a better player. There's only 7% difference in rostership there. As long as you're getting different elsewhere for a FanDuel GPP, I do like playing more Mikal Bridges.
All right. One more super chat here from R. Cathelza, Brandon Ingram or Josh Hart, TK GPP. Ingram, if I have to choose between the two, but two guys also I didn't really get to today. How about you?
On FanDuel or DraftKings? DK. Yeah, on DK, I'm not really getting to nearly as much as of what I'm getting to FanDuel of both of them. If you make me pick one, I'm actually going to take Brandon Ingram between the two for DraftKings around kind of the same numbers. But this is also just another great reason for FanDuel. Play multiple sites, give yourself an opportunity to get exposure to different plays. They are both much easier to play over on the FanDuel site. So I'm getting my exposure there. Josh Hart, though, a little less on DK for me. So yeah, Brandon Ingram there.
Yeah, so I've got NBA games pulled up here on my other screen. There's not anything that's all that significant though, right? Like I don't care that much about the Cavs Hornets game or the Magic Pacers game. Do you? These games don't have that much significance.
Cole Anthony a little bit. I got like 18% on FanDuel. He was going to be really popular over there. I'm just kind of waiting for other news here. Yeah, I don't know what he ended up at. But yeah, he was projected around 22%. Mo Bamba. That's a guy that could ruin my night. 4,600 if he just went completely nuts. I'm under 6% even of that. And I think there's a path for him to be playing, the 30 minutes he saw last game. We just saw it in this exact same kind of spot here, exact same matchup. So that would be unfortunate because I do just prioritize those guys up top on FanDuel today.
All right. So let's hit on PrizePicks now. Also, Eric's going to be looking at OddsShopper, just free tool to use that we have over at Awesemo.com, where you can find the best values for PrizePicks. Well, for any site that has any kind of prop bets at all. Mm-hmm. So OddsShopper, free to use. We've got expected ROI, expected win rate based on our projections that we have over at Awesemo.com. So something else by the way, there are people just blasting music and it is driving me crazy. That like,
is it your family or who?
I don't even know. I texted my brother, but it is apps. It is. I just want to throw somebody out a window right now.
At least your internet works.
My internet does work for a change. Great. So at least that's nice. But
I flip-flop today.
I can't hear myself think. The PrizePicks. If you guys sign up using the promo code Awesemo, get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. Also get yourself one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That is promo code Awesemo. So check that out. Really good way to get yourself in the door at PrizePicks and help yourself build a bankroll there. All right. What are some of the best looking prop bets that are showing up over on PrizePicks using OddsShopper?
Well, not even just OddsShopper. I mean, OddsShopper is the best place to go, period. We also have the free PrizePicks tool to be able to look at on Awesemo. So it goes hand in hand here. But a lot of the best plays that we're looking at the top end of the board are going to be a little bit harder, but it looks like shorting a lot of plays here on the top end. That's really just kind of one of the things on PrizePicks where I try to react to news or kind of predict what could happen here. I shorted a lot of those players from the Cleveland side, just in terms of points, assuming that Darius Garland was going to be in. When you're trying to aim up for 10x by getting a 4-player, which is kind of my preferred route of going. I do the power play with 4 players or 3 players and kind of combine them there. It's nice to be able to have them all correlate to one piece of news reacting. And, if that one thing works out, you're saying in a positive EV spot. So I did like shorting all of those Cleveland Cavaliers before this started. James Harden, as much as we absolutely love him today, he's got an 11 assist prop. That's better than the 11.5 you're looking at sportsbooks. So it's a little less enticing. We have him projected at 10 assists, 30% ROI, 69% win percentage. I am only worried about expected win percentage when it comes to PrizePicks. So if you guys are playing along at home, looking at OddsShopper, I just want them to win. I have no consideration for what is plus money or minus money the way that I would for a sports book when I'm playing over at PrizePicks. So I think one of the most important parts of the process of using the two together is making sure that before you start, having it sort by expected win as opposed to expected ROI.
Somebody's going to be wrong here because I've Harden projected for over 13 assists today. One of the reasons I'm playing a lot in DFS today. So
yeah, I love him today. I said I was just looking at what popped up on OddsShopper there. We had him projected at 10. I I'm hoping he goes for 20 is probably the right way of saying it. Not going to be a part of anything that I do on PrizePicks today, but I started my card with those Cleveland plays. I've been playing a lot on PrizePicks. I have an absolute blast and probably annoy our group chat a little bit too much with how much I'm playing at PrizePicks. And, it's California. This is my exposure to kind of getting into the prop world. So it's been really, really nice to kind of experiment with. But one of the main places to start with, if you have minutes concerns, and I do have minutes concerns for a guy like Mo Bamba, you could find an opportunity to short some of these spots. And against Indiana, maybe it's just kind of a complete stay away. But I do look at Mo Bamba as a guy that, for good reason, could just kind of get the rug yanked out from underneath him at any moment. And so I looked at shorting a couple of his props along the way. Did he have his block and steals? Yeah, that's no longer on the board. That's a bummer. But we can look at some of these block and steals ones here as well. They now have points plus rebounds plus assists. I mean, everything is available on OddsShopper to compare and everything on PrizePicks. I mean, it's just such a fun site to be joining right now.
All right. We got more super chats, but I wanted, before we hit on those real quick, what do you think, based on what I said before, what do you think is my favorite prop over at PrizePicks right now?
What do I think your favorite pick is on PrizePicks? Probably the over of James Harden, based on the way you said that.
Oh, DeAndre Ayton, 18 points. I haven't projected for 24. My God. I haven't projected for 24 points today.
All right, I'm going to fire this up. We're going to fire this up. I'm adding this to the card. I want to build a card here because, and you know what? I'm feeling generous here today. Go over and follow at Greg Ehrenberg, DFS, G Ehrenberg DFS. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist. I'm going to put together a $100 PrizePicks parlay. So we're going to pick our 4 favorite plays on the board here today with the help of the chat, the help of you guys. Head over to OddsShopper. We're going to kind of put this together, and I'm going to give, if it hits, I'm going to give away half of it to somebody random. I'll give away half to anybody who retweets or likes the win on Greg and because I'll attach the card to Greg and myself, and anybody who retweets it out will get the opportunity to win half of whatever that ends up being. I'll PayPal you, Venmo you, whatever you prefer.
Also, while you guys check out PrizePicks, pull it up so you guys could see some of the props we're looking at. Also check out OddsShopper. While you guys take a second to open all that up, I'm going to hit on some more super chats that we got here just now. Demetrius Johnson, no Tyler Hero love back at home with no Lowry. I don't have him projected poorly. I just have a lot of guys that are projected better on a points per dollar basis. And this happens so frequently on these bigger slates where we get a bunch of injury news. And I think there's so much good value that opens up that I love going stars and scrubs. I just kind of don't end up playing a lot of those guys in the upper mid-range kind of pricing tier. DeAndre Ayton's an exception for me just because I haven't projected so highly. But Tyler Hero is not somebody I got to a lot of. How about yourself?
I'm checking FanDuel because he's somebody that sometimes slips into more lineups than what I think I'm going to get to over on FanDuel. I have 10% of him there, so nothing crazy. On DK, I would be very surprised if at his tag I got to any. He was 6,500 over there. No, he's statistically, and I know we've talked about him a little bit before, but he's a guy who's statistically just kind of down in every single category. Just from an efficiency standpoint, he's a guy that I don't think Miami necessarily needs to have on the floor as much as what they've had here of late. Now, in the absence of Kyle Lowry, I think all bets are off for what those minutes can be if he gets it going. So makes sense as a tournament play, but specifically FanDuel, I'll get to a little bit, but DraftKings not really in play for me.
Another super chat from Frankie Lofton. DK, 3v3, well, actually not really a 3v3, I just realized, but Harden, Butler, Randall, or Harden, Giannis, Ayton. So Harden in both sides. So he's asking us Butler and Randall or Giannis and Ayton. That is Giannis and Ayton for me.
Yeah, the last one by a wide margin. Butler, he's probably the guy most likely to ruin my night, considering he's a zillion percent owned on FanDuel tonight.
All right, let's see what is. All right, we are all caught up on super chats. So let's start building Eric's PrizePicks prop card here. Yeah. I live in New Jersey where PrizePicks is not allowed. Some of the regulations with sports betting and prop stuff, it's so bizarre to me. So New Jersey, where I could play on all the sports books, I'm allowed to place bets there. Can't on PrizePicks. Eric, on the other hand, lives in California where he doesn't have access to any sports books, but is allowed to play on PrizePicks. Whole thing's very confusing. Anyway, so that's where we're gonna build. We're gonna build a PrizePicks card here for Eric because of the silly legal system we have in this country. So Eric, where are we starting? What is your, how about, let's do this. My favorite play, your favorite play, and then some of chat's favorite plays.
I love this. Yeah. And again, somebody just super chatted us. Demetrius Johnson, hero over 8 and under 5% DK. Hero over 8. And that is crazy talk. As much as I'm not crazy bullish on 8, and I'm still getting to nearly 20% of him. So like, it's not a play that I'm completely against. I just have my concerns here for the most part, but that is Greg Ehrenberg's play. So I'm not going to besmirch such things. Over of 18 points. That is the first play going on this card here. So there's no doubt about that. I am going through here right now. Oh, that's why, because it was on Arizona. I was in Arizona, so I was using OddsShopper in Arizona, but then some of these are not listed here. Let's take a look at these Philly and 76ers ones, because James Harden, did his 3-point prop go away? Yeah, he's at 2.5 3-pointers made here. We had the under going on that, but that's not really something you want to do with a 65% expected win percentage. Plus, we both really, really like him here today, so I'm not kind of going that direction. Again, it's so easy to be able to pick these up pretty quickly. I'm going to go towards the, oh God, this is uncomfortable. This is really uncomfortable, but the under of 7.5 rebounds for Jimmy Butler, 68% win percentage. That number over here on PrizePicks, where did Jimmy Butler go? Because he should be at that exact number, right? Where's Jimmy Butler at?
Jimmy Butler.
Oh, he's at 6.5 there on PrizePicks. Look at them. They're sneaky. Because 7.5 is kind of the prevailing number across the industry here today. That's going to be a stay away for me. What is Giannis's rebound number at?
Giannis's rebound number is 10.5. That seems very low for Giannis.
Yeah, we haven't projected at 10.5. I kind of like the over of that, but maybe that's just going to be a stay away here. Let's see. Tell Greg to turn his location off on his phone. No, we do not. We do not do these things.
Which
we do not.
Also, it doesn't even work doing that. Because if you want to, you have to have your location services turned on to access any of these sites. So, and I'm a good boy, right? I'm not going to jail. I'm not going to spend time with Cain Velasquez in prison. I'm keeping to myself here.
Oh man,
Did you read the Cain Velasquez story?
I did. I heard attempted murder. That's not good, right? That's bad.
So the story though is the guy molested one of his kids.
Oh, I did not hear that.
Took matters into his own hands, but that's neither here nor there.
Shit.
The free Kane. The PrizePicks. Let's see what else do we have over on OddsShopper? Did Eric freeze, or that's just what his face looks like?
That's
now?
my face, because I didn't read the story. All I saw was Cain Velasquez attempted murder, and I didn't hear the other part. Feels like pretty important information to throw in there. Wow. Bamba 2 for 2 from 3. Do you remember that day when Bamba did this to us? Do you remember?
Oh, the day where we went 7 of 7 from 3,
and we had 48,000 questions and super chats about Mo Bamba, and we're like, "Oh, this is abysmal against Joel Embiid, and he's popular, and yada yada yada," and he just went nuts. Well, hopefully he doesn't completely.
Could be doing it again. Mo Bamba 8 points in a rebound, 4 minutes into the game. Mo Bamba in
11, just hit another 3.
So he's at 11 points now?
11 points in a rebound.
Oh my God. The dude is just flames.
No chill.
What did I end up with for Bamba? What does ownership end up coming at? So I have 10% Bamba. Where's he at?
That is just, I'm looking at his Cain Velasquez.
So that's
stuff.
actually, so I have 10% Bamba. Bamba's also 10% on. So whatever. He's not that popular.
All right. Well, then we'll be all right. FanDuel, I thought he would be more popular than what he is, I suppose would be the right way of looking at it. You know what's crazy too? If you go to OddsShopper, these blocks and steals and 3-pointer ones, I don't know if anybody went over and saw Awesemo Alex Baker posting what he's doing with Hassan Whiteside under 8.5 rebounds today, but it is crazy some of the money that you can be making in props and how much is going into them. I have not seen a ticket like that in many moons. The under on 5K going towards Hassan Whiteside. Do you kind of back that one up as well for those paying attention over on OddsShopper?
What for which prop?
Hassan Whiteside was at 8.5 rebounds.
Here's the thing that kind of, and by the way, he's at 8 over on PrizePicks, which actually I don't think the under is a bad look there. Something else to consider.
I might have to click that.
The 8.5 number not only popped up as a good bet for us on OddsShopper, but it was also at minus like 145 at Sportsbooks and was still looking like a good number. So that 8 is still something to get behind.
All right, he's the ad. He's the second ad to the card. We've got Ayton over 18. We've got Hassan Whiteside under 8 rebounds, backing our boy Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. Feels like a good thing to do. That'll be my addition here to the card here. Greg, you are the next one up here. I have a feeling. Well, we can't combine DeAndre Ayton props. That's sad. But what's next up for you?
So I can't pick Ayton because you're just considering that your pick now.
Wait, Tommy David Walker. Eric, you didn't read it to begin with, so don't try to act like you care now. I simply saw the headlines. I simply saw that Cain Velasquez attempted murder. I didn't read an article. I didn't look at anything else. I'm not a big MMA guy.
I think he's talking to me.
Oh, gotcha. I thought he was saying, Eric, you didn't read it. I thought he literally said Eric.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't see all of the chat, but whatever. Like I said, neither here nor there.
Pretty, yeah.
So I can't do the Ayton pick is counting as yours now.
No, the Hassan Whiteside under 8 rebounds is counting as mine.
Oh, okay. So is Ayton still on the board, or is that already locked in?
Ayton's locked in over 18 projected points.
Okay.
So here's the thing: we need chat to help out. Again, you have to follow at Ehrenberg DFS. You have to follow at Eric Lindquist, and you have to follow at Awesemo. We need to follow the at Awesemo DFS account. Those are the 3 things. I'm going to tag them along with PrizePicks. Those are going to be the 4 things. We're going to put this card out. I'm going to put $100. And if it hits, I'm going to give you half of the winnings. Done. No questions asked. All you do is like or retweet. You can like it. You can retweet it. You can do whatever you want. I will literally random generate it a winner for you because that's a fun thing that I like to do. Again, want to give back to the people. I feel like I've never really done that before. I want to do that. That's what I'm here for, is to build, some good karma for everybody. So let's smash. Let's do that.
Yeah. So if you guys could pull up PrizePicks and check out, just check out some of the projections that we have on OddsShopper, try to find what you guys like as your favorite plays over and help Eric build his prop card. In the meantime, Corey Bomber, Zeke Najee rolled out. Don't really care. Corey Bomber, Super Chat. Fox, Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, or Harden, Barrett, and Vincent on DK. Well, there's a lot of guys that I don't really like. I didn't roster RJ Barrett today.
I don't have Barrett, and I get it. Barrett's been like a sneaky tournament play for me. I'm not playing him today against Philly. That's just not going to happen. Fox, D, Mitchell, Bridges, or Harden, Barrett, Vincent. I like the Harden and Vincent, obviously. I don't like the Fox. Bridges on DK. That's interesting because he gets underneath that 8K number. He's just so feast and famine. I'm going to go with the second one by default, even though Barrett isn't necessarily a guy I'm in love with today.
This is tough because there's so many players I don't like here. Harden's my favorite of anybody you've mentioned there, so I guess that is my answer. But I don't like Barrett today. Gabe Vincent's not somebody I really love. I have sub 10% exposure to him. I don't really like Donovan Mitchell. I don't like Fox, but I like Bridges. So yeah. By the way, also, I don't know whether that's Miles or Mikal Bridges. M Bridges doesn't really clear that up.
Yeah, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. I was thinking just Harden, Miles with the way that it worked out salary wise.
Yeah, Harden, Barrett, Vincent side. All right, we've got lots of options in here, Eric.
Okay,
we've got some people. Grayson Allen over 8.5 points, over 0.5 assists for Furkan Korkmaz. I didn't even realize that was on there. CJ McCollum over 2.5 threes.
Ooh. Now we're talking. That's a click. Congratulations to whoever that is. Maybe you get some of Gerardo. Okay, I'll remember that Gerardo.
I very much like that shout. McCollum over 2.5 threes.
I have him projected for 3.3, so that's useful.
Yeah, I like that. That is a good call. Who do we give credit to for that?
Gerardo.
Who you said that was?
We got to pass KYC to get paid. I don't know what that means. But no, I will literally just Venmo you or whatever you want.
Yeah, I can't find who it was that said the. Oh, here it was. It
Gerardo,
was Ross
right?
K over 2.
Gotcha.
You know why? because like an idiot, I saw that chat. It's still near the top of the chats there, but he had said CJ, and I was just thinking it was McCollum in my head. So I did a search for McCollum's name, but it wasn't popping up. But because he'd said CJ over 2.5, I love that call. So we're at have we picked 3 or 4 now?
We've got 3. We're looking for the homer. We got to get one more on there. We're going to put 100 in, and that'll be to win $1,000. Somebody could end up walking out of here. So it won't be the $100 initially. It'll be $450 that you will win if this hits. So that's free money in your pocket on PrizePicks. Another great reason to stay around after these shows is sometimes I just do weird things. And this is something that, again, I would love to give one of you for $450. That goes a long way for the bankroll. So follow Ehrenberg DFS, follow at Eric Lindquist, follow at OddShopper, follow at Awesemo. I'll just have them all listed on Twitter, but you will be able to see it if you follow at Ehrenberg DFS or at Eric Lindquist. It'll be easy. All right. Oh, the third one. So CJ McCollum over 2.5 threes, Tyler.
Yeah, that one for sure. Let's see. What other ones here? Trey Lyles under 13.5 points. No, that's about fair to me. What else is being suggested? Who said that? That was Joel Pichardo, who said Lyles under 13.5. I think that one's about fair. We've also got, let's see, the Shiva GPG saying DiVincenzo for over 7.5. That also seems about fair to me. If I had to pick a side, it would be the over there, but that's not one that I have a massive lean on. Joel Pichardo also saying Fox over 5.5 assists. Fox has not really played a big role facilitating as of late. I don't know if you've taken notice of this.
Oh, big time. Because it's all Sabonis getting the ball at the top
Sabonis
of the post. It's
for all intents and purposes, Sabonis is the point guard now.
Yes, that's what's happening. We have 5.23 expected assists for Fox right now. So
Fox does have 10 assists in back-to-back games. Are times changing? Sabonis has been in foul trouble recently also, though.
That helps. I think we can do better. I think we can. Fox isn't on the board that I'm looking at here. I don't see Fox assist prop, so it's not available on where I'm looking at here on the old PrizePicks.
Randall over 5.5 assists. That game's about to lock. I don't know if we'll have time to get that one in.
Well, we can. It's going to be quick. I'm just going to literally click it, and it's going to be done, and we're going to be set. So, if you like it, we fire it up.
Trey Mann over 2.5 assists. Let's see. A lot of people are saying Randall over 5.5 assists. How do you feel about that one? It's come up a couple of times. I have him projected slightly towards the over. Not significantly, though. Not enough to
I have him exactly at 5.48. So I don't feel great about that. I'm going to just say.
Let's see. Go pull up OddShopper. Maybe we could.
That's where I'm going to. We're going to OddShopper to round this out.
Here's something we have. I think you're going to like this.
All right.
K Thumbs says Harden over free throws. I know that's been a special.
Oh my God. Oh, 7. Let's go. We had to find a James Harden prop to mix in. Over 7 free throws. I am so here for it. The guy has just been involved in every capacity you could possibly want. He's just special.
And I think we've really encompassed some of your favorite things here also, because we've got Harden.
Yep. We're doing 4. So we've got 8 and over, 18 points. We've got Hassan Whiteside under 8 rebounds. We've got McCollum over 2.5 threes. And we've got James Harden over 7 free throws made, 100 to win 1,000. I just placed the entry. There we are, everybody. Look at that.
I'm kind of upset that we didn't find the McCollum one before, because that's actually my favorite one on all. It's
my favorite one out of everything that we have there. Aside from Hassan Whiteside, if that were 8.5, that would be so much better. But you know what? I think there's a lot of room for the under. Cheer for a close game now, Greg. That's what it comes down to. We're cheering for a close game there in Houston, where Gobert needs to play 36 minutes. Which, by the way, last shout out before we get out of here. Love playing Rudy Gobert at center on DraftKings. I think that the minutes are just going to only trend up here for him. And I think he's going a little bit underappreciated across the industry today.
All right, let's look at some of the box scores here and see what it is that's been going on so far. First, starting with the Hornets and Cavs game. On the Hornets side of the game, nothing really happening. The high score is Terry Rozier with 5 points and 2 rebounds. On the Cleveland side of the game, also nothing really happening. There is nothing going on there right now. We've got Markkanen 2 points, a rebound, then assist and a steal, 6 points, 2 boards for Jared Allen. Evan Mobley checked out very, very early, so that's going to inhibit his fantasy production. Only played 4 minutes before subbing out. So nothing going on from a fantasy standpoint in that game. So far, I feel good that we've faded back and kind of avoided it. Next game here, the Magic and Pacers, the only other game going on the Pacers side of the game. People are very triggered in chat right now about Malcolm Brogdon. 1 rebound, 2 assists in 5 minutes. Looks like he's potentially playing limited minutes tonight. On the Orlando side of the game, Mo Bamba, 11 points, 2 boards. Quick start for him. He's really the only notable fantasy performer to this point. Mo Bamba is the only guy putting up a big line so far, right around towards the end of the first quarter of these games. So, guys, that is going to do it for us here. We don't have any news yet on the Suns starting lineup. You're going to want to pay attention to that campaign. If he starts, that is going to be massively important to our lineups today. If you guys have not signed up at PrizePicks yet, do it using the promo code Awesemo. Get yourself to a $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Other than that, good luck today, guys, and hopefully we get that Suns lineup sometime soon.
See you in 30 minutes. PGA.